All right, everybody. Welcome to El Sancho Live. We are joined by the man with the backwards hat, Mr. Will Turbitt, the man, the truth. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Half the world lives off $2 a day. Spent more than $2 on my coffee this morning, so I would say comparatively I'm doing just great. How about yourself, brother?
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you hopping on such a baby platform like mine.
Well, nobody's platform is a baby platform. Anybody can reach anybody at any time. It just takes one thing. And even if you're genuinely trying to do something out of the good of your heart and you're trying to wake people up or whatever your intention is, if it's a pure positive intention, even if you're just doing it and reaching one person, I would say continue.
Do you get frustrated with people who compare subscription numbers as if it's like a penis size contest?
I don't get frustrated with them, but at the same time, I understand that we have two. I mean, I don't have these things in front of me, but anybody can go ahead and Google them or DuckDuckGo them or view them on the Brave browser. But there have been two documents from YouTube that have been released that show that people are being censored depending on their viewpoints, and it's not necessarily even a conservative or liberal thing, but certain people who, I mean, there's a lot of people who have also been banned. Alex Jones, Louis Farrakhan, about, I believe, 600,000 other accounts have been banned on YouTube. And then there's a shadow banning that's been admitted. We have Project Veritas, who is somewhat of a right-wing organization, but regardless, they still have done on their videos, and just let everybody here know that's maybe new to me or my ideology. I'm not a left-wing or right-wing type of guy, but they've gotten on their undercover videos. They've seen people that have, they've interviewed people that work for YouTube, and they admit that they shadow ban certain people. And then we have the Google whistleblower, I believe his name is Zach Voorhees, and another whistleblower, and obviously Google owns YouTube, who have also talked about the shadow banning and censoring. So you're doing a small thing, that's fine. But I mean, you can grow, right? And if you have a passion and desire for what you're doing, I mean, even me, I don't have a wide reach whatsoever. But then again, neither is the mainstream media at this point, too. I mean, whether it's Fox or CNN or MSNBC, the media's ratings are at all-time lows, except when they have either a presidential election or maybe a COVID event going on. But people's distrust, there was a poll taken about saying 6% of Americans trusted the mainstream news. So then again, you can't rely on the polls either, because the polls told you in 2016, the day of the election, 99% chance that Hillary was going to win. So whether it's YouTube, but I would also implore people to move to decentralized locations such as DLive, BitChute, and other platforms like that, because they're less censored. So it doesn't necessarily make me, I mean, in a way, it does make me frustrated, because sure, I mean, people that have great ideas or outside the box ideas or just different perspectives are being censored, so we can watch people play video games, talk about drama, or unbox toys. That is a point of frustration, but it's the free market. So hopefully now with these alternatives, especially on the blockchain and post-blockchain technologies, hopefully we can establish a new media.
Here's my question. I was listening to you earlier, and you sounded a little frustrated that your auditing videos are more popular than the other work that you do. Did you take a break recently from auditing because of that?
No, I unfortunately, due to COVID and all my traveling, I'll do an audit when I see an opportunity. If I see some cops, I'll just start watching them. I'll start filming them. But I'll do the same thing on a governor. I'll do the same thing on a presidential candidate. If I see somebody that's in a capacity of working for the public, I will film them, and I'll ask if it's somebody that I agree with, I'll commend them. If somebody I disagree with, I'll try to ask them the tough questions. And more often than not, when I do auditing, I just want to make sure that people are upholding the Constitution and doing what they are paid to do. So
what would, if you had to call yourself one thing, auditor, activist, cop watcher, what would it be and why?
Well, I mean, terms are interesting because they can put you in a box. I believe it was Rumi that said, once you label me, you defeat me. But I've been an activist, an advocate long before I've done auditing. Quite frankly, I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years on and off video, and there's documentation of that. But it hasn't always been against cops. But I mean, the part of the reason that cops are into this anyways is because cops are the enforcement of the corrupt state. And I use this example all the time that Hitler didn't kill anybody. Some people say that Hitler killed himself and Eva Braun, but there's also once they dug up the skull, they said it was actually a woman's skull when they did the studies on it. So Hitler didn't kill anybody. It was the corrupt people following Hitler's tyrannical, immoral, violent orders that killed people. And obviously this is just kind of a comparison here. But it also, one of the things I hear when cops go against their constitutional orders or the constitutional oath is that they're just following orders. And as we saw in Nuremberg, that wasn't something that protected people. So it's a symbiotic relationship. And, I'm not somebody that just goes out and calls out the cops, as you may or may not know, but I call out all levels of the power structure. Anybody, even if you're not part of public service, if I and again, I'm just an idiot with a backwards hat and a fake mic. I'm nobody special. I've committed my transgressions. I'm not a perfect person, but I became aware of knowledge a while ago about how the situation we're living in, bare minimum, could be made better. And we're not living in an ideal world. And I don't also believe in an idea of a utopia, but I do believe that there's a lot of injustice occurring on a global scale. Right. And I think that is part of our civic duty, our human duty, our spiritual duty, if you will, to try to do something about that.
So what and who got you into auditing?
So I had never heard of auditing until I met Auditing America, Mr. America. Shout outs to him. And go subscribe to Demand
now,
Street.
Hold on. You have heard my impression of him.
I have.
Your thoughts?
It's not bad. I've heard. We may have to compare it to some others. I do a pretty good one too. You have to put on the Versace glasses. You know what I'm saying? And but shout outs to Auditing America because and so I met him. I didn't even know what auditing was. I really honestly didn't know what auditing was. I probably said this story before. And I consider myself somebody that goes down every rabbit hole. I don't watch TV. I either read or I'm listening to things online or watching things. And I thought I went down every rabbit hole. And then I looked on the Providence Journal. I see a picture of Mr. America there. Had no idea who it was. And it said Providence man arrested for, I could be wrong about the headline, but Providence man arrested for First Amendment or something like that, or for filming or something like that. And here in Rhode Island, there's about 2.5 activists. And I know people are going to get mad at that, but there's only about 2.5 activists, and I know all of them. And so when I saw this, I was like, who's this dude? And so I had a mutual friend at the time introduce us, and we met at the Occupy Wall Street anniversary picnic. And we'd only stay there for like 5 minutes, and then I was trying to explain to him where I was coming from, what I was doing. He was trying to explain to me what he was doing, because I'd never heard of a First Amendment audit. I'd never even heard of it. And this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. Terrible with dates. And then a couple of days later, he's like, you want to do an audit? And I was like, all right, because I'm always down for activism. Because, it's very rare that you find people that, don't care about sports or don't care about drama. There's nothing wrong with sports or drama in and of themselves, or video games. It's just, I believe that people should have a balance in their lives, because I had one friend that had, watched sports all day, had 4 or 5 fantasy teams, and that their entire life was consumed by that. And I have a couple fantasy teams, and there's no guys in sweaty tights on them. So me and Enrique did an audit in North Smithfield, and that was back in the day when I used to dress up with a nice jacket and a scarf or a suit or whatever. I'd carry a real microphone, but it was not plugged up into anything. And I basically did it because I didn't know what an audit was at that time, as like a story on what he was doing. Well, here is Enrique. He believes in the ability to film in public places. I was kind of giving it a play-by-play as I went. We went to North Smithfield Police Department, did an audit. They passed. Nobody said anything to us. We filmed, we left. And he's like, yo, dog, that was cool, but next time, don't say anything. These people have to understand that the First Amendment is for everybody, not just for reporters. And I still didn't get the idea of auditing completely at that time, but I was like, oh, damn, you're right. You know what I'm saying? The First Amendment isn't just for for people with makeup and that cover up for Jeffrey Epstein and lie about weapons of mass destruction that killed over 1 million Iraqis and sent all of our boys and girls to an unconstitutional war that still hasn't ended.
Right. So let's do this. So I'm going to do a poll on who has done the better Ensemble voice impression. Voice only, between you and me. I will let you choose between who goes first and what, and you can even choose the sentence, whatever you want. Who do you want to go first, you or me?
I'm going to go right now.
Go.
Hey guys, this is Auditing America. We're going to take a look at poster 7. Let's see if they respect our rights. Nah, it's not the best one I ever did, but hey.
All right, you ready for mine?
Let's hear it.
Auditing America. Here I am at Will Turbitt, the man, the truth. We're going to go audit a post office. Let's see if they're going to buy me a stamp.
All right, let's see what the polls say. I don't know.
A poll has opened. Who did the better impression?
And shout outs to Auditing America, because honestly, Auditing America and his channel, I mean, not only have we audited post offices, but I mean, we called out Michael Bloomberg for flying on the Epstein Express to his face. We called out Joe Biden multiple times about being a pervert and groping children and women. We called out Hillary Clinton to her face well before the mainstream media even thought about talking about Epstein, about why her and her husband were flying around on the Epstein Express twice. And Mr. America has done a lot of great activism. And, you know, I can't say enough good things about that gentleman, because he has been somebody that, you know, you can agree or disagree with all of his tactics, but he's done a great job by confronting some of these people and exposing some of the tyrannical actions of our overlords. So shout outs to Auditing America. Give him a like, share, and subscribe.
What's the number one thing you learned from Anselmo, and why?
You know, one of the number one things I learned from Anselmo was, you know, the First Amendment is for everybody. And it kind of made me reflect on, you know, it's something that I already knew, but he made me grok it. You know, I don't know if you guys have ever read that book. I haven't even read that book, but I believe it's A Stranger in a Strange World. But I was explained very thoroughly the idea of grokking something. It's not just to like, I really understood it. I mean, like fully understood the First Amendment. Because, you know, before in this country, you know, when our founding fathers were getting together and planning the Boston Tea Party and so forth, it was a criminal act to get together and talk negatively about a tyrannical king. It was a criminal act. You could be killed for that. You could literally be killed for that. And today we take the First Amendment for granted. And, you know, people that are rich in this society, they get to use the First Amendment differently. People like the Bushes and the Clintons. And, you know, he really taught me that the First Amendment is for everybody. And you know, we've had Bucket Boy on our channel. We've had so many different people on our channel. And even when, like he said to me after the first thing, you know, this is not about a reporter. This is about the First Amendment is for everybody. Some people tell him, hey, don't hang around with this person. Don't let this person on your channel. Don't let this person talk. But you know, the most beautiful thing in the world is he doesn't even agree with all these people half the time. And he believes in he really truly believes in the First Amendment. And that's why it's the most important thing. That's why it's the number one thing on the Bill of Rights is freedom of speech. And we're living in a world right now where I would hope you would agree with me on this, is our freedom of speech is being severely attacked. And for somebody to go out there like a warrior and say, not only I'm going to fight for free speech, I'm not only that, but I'm going to ask these people, these world elite, these tough questions that the mainstream media refuses to. But also, he taught me that most importantly, that the First Amendment is for everybody. And that's probably the best thing that he's ever taught to me, besides being an amazing person and a loyal friend to me behind the scenes.
I have a two-part question. What is the biggest misconception about Anselmo? And two, where has he been? Because everyone's asking.
Well, Anselmo has been doing music. He's also a very talented Spanish rapper in his own regard. And I don't know if I'm blowing his spot here, but he's also written verses for some very popular reggaeton artists or Spanish rap artists. I don't know exactly how you would define that, but I guess it's a little bit of both. And that's also something that he's working on right now. He's actually very, very talented in that aspect. And he was working with that well before his auditing videos. His auditing videos just happened to catch fire. And I'm sorry, what was the other question?
What is the biggest misconception that the public thinks about Anselmo?
Well, not just necessarily about Anselmo, Mr. America, or myself. I mean, every day we get, tons of negative comments and negative things said about us. But it's not necessarily misconceptions about us. It's just, you know what? We're not perfect people. We never claim to be perfect people. We're not out here wearing white claiming to be, some type of, I don't know, but we're not, we're just regular dudes, and we get a lot of guff. We get a lot of positive stuff too. And we get a lot of amazing people supporting us. But, I think people need to realize that, although him and I are not perfect people, that even people like Tukey Williams, who was a murderer, changed his life and did things for good. Even people like Rick Ross, who was the biggest drug dealer in U.S. history, turned his life around and exposed the CIA drug dealing and made his life into a positive thing. I mean, even if you look at the Bible with Saul, he murdered Christians. And when Saul murdered Christians and then went on to become Paul, one of the best Christians. So it's not necessarily the criticisms, because it's expected to happen, especially when you have a platform like Auditing America, because, I mean, literally he's got like 75, 100 million views on all platforms combined. So when you have 100 million people seeing your stuff, not including, the news coverage we've gotten when we confront Joe Biden and so forth, of course you're going to get a certain amount of negative interactions. So one of the things is, one, people are just, they don't see the complexity of all of human nature and what he's trying to do and his genuineness. And two, it's, a lot of people out there are also brainwashed, right? I mean, whether you're on the left or the right, there's brainwashing. There's Edward Bernays, there's Bertrand Russell, there's societal engineers who are brainwashing us for a long time. So when you're doing something outside the box, when you're doing something unusual, people are going to criticize you. And, honestly, Mr. America, Enrique Anselmo, he is one of the, I've dealt with a lot of people in my life. I've had people that say, oh, I'm in it for, I'm really about this. But he's really about this, and he's put his neck out on the line. So he's been also a great person to me behind the scenes. So, people just don't understand the complexity, or they're ignorant, or, they have their own things that they want to address. But as far as misconceptions, I mean, anybody can say anything about us, but we're not murderers, not pedophiles, never hit kids, nothing like that. We never, so, and even if we did, like I said, Saul was a murderer of Christians and became one of the greatest Christians. So I don't think it's really about the criticism, but I would just say to people, hey, even if we're the worst people in the world, do you want us to stay being the worst people in the world, or do you want us to try to be better,
So my opinion on auditing post offices is I find them pointless. I find them pointless in a matter because you look at what the end result is. I think you have more of a positive change, cop watching, filming abuse, filming something that shouldn't have happened, and getting that officer fired is more effective than finally getting the post office master to allow cameras in the post office. What do you think about that?
Sure. So, well, first and foremost, unfortunately, because of the unions, police officers rarely, if ever, get fired. But secondly, this goes into philosophy, right? And this is something that I can't give you a definitive answer on, because something that I'm still trying to figure out myself, right? So some people, they hate when I say owned. But first of all, it's a joke. I'm playing on like a term from 2011, 2012, and I'm saying it as a joke, right? And they think that's a negative thing, right? But when I look at my analytics for my channel, one of the things that's most searched that drives people to my channel is cops owned. So, I mean, first of all, whether it's at a police station or any other public place, which is a post office, we should have the First Amendment here. We're just trying to bring normalcy to it. So yeah, I mean, quite frankly, the post office is obviously not as a cool place to audit as, let's say, the Pentagon, right? But at the same time, people watch those videos, which drive them to our other videos, which allows me, because yeah, sure, maybe we just do maybe we just do a video at a post office and somebody does something wild and spazzes out, there is a philosophy there, because as we talked about earlier in this show, people are being banned, people are being shadow banned. It's not a debate. It's something that's been even admitted by Google and YouTube employees themselves on video and in documents. So sometimes you have to do certain things. So then when we go to a post office, then people watch our videos, then we get new subscribers. Then when Mr. America, although he doesn't always agree with everything that I say, when him and I are able to do a live stream and I'm able to talk about things like the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, and a number of other things, then it's a beneficial thing to the audience at whole. So that's how I feel about that.
Now, the poster, I'm showing like the poster 7 right now.
Yeah.
Clearly says photography. Says the photographs for news purposes may be taken in entrances, lobbies, foyers, corridors, or auditoriums when used for public meetings, except where prohibited by official signs of security force personnel or other authorized personnel or a federal court order of rule. Other photographs may be taken only with the permission of the local postmaster or installation head. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, also, if you go on to read in that document, it also says that, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, because I don't have this memorized off the top of my head, but it also said nothing in this document is meant to go against the laws of this country or any state or local, state or federal laws. And obviously the foundational document, the foundational laws are the Constitution and Bill of Rights. So even though it says where it's
right here, like nothing contained in these rules and regulations shall be construed to abrogate any other federal laws or regulations or any
exactly. So that's my contention with that. If it's a federal building, we're paying federal money for it. And yes, it says we're prohibited or only with the consent of the postmaster, but then it goes on to say right there that we should be allowed. This is not in place of any First Amendment. So anything in this document that says anything against the First Amendment is null and void. So we have the First Amendment. Anytime we're in a public building that's financed by our tax money, we absolutely have the right to the First Amendment.
And I look at what's going to get the biggest impact and the biggest change.
Okay, let me just say one thing before you do that too. And I just want to add this caveat because I think it's very important. So we have post office videos that have hundreds of thousands of views, yet on our Hillary Clinton video where we confront Hillary Clinton, we have probably less than, I haven't checked in a long time, but probably less than 40,000 on that. So that should, one, tell you about the shadow banning that we discussed earlier, and two, tell you why it's so important to do these post offices as well, is because that's what's driving, unfortunately, a lot of our content, and it's allowing us to speak to people about greater ideologies, greater philosophies, greater world problems. But I'm sorry for interrupting there, brother. I just wanted to make that point.
It's cool. I'm going to do it as well. Like, you and I both have a lot of energy, so don't. It's completely cool. So, do you think that it's just who runs your channel, your viewers or you?
I'd say it's a little bit of both. I mean, so it's a two-part answer there. Obviously, I don't agree with anybody 100% ever, right? Because if I did, I'd be brainwashed. So I think that the things I focus on, my biases, the things that I'm interested in, are obviously driven by me. And there's a certain amount of people that, because they agree to a certain extent, or they share the same passions or interests or spheres of research, they are attracted to me. But also they send me information as well too. And I'm, some of the people that I've been fortunate enough to interview, I've been fans of them growing up. So, it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. And I get sent information from people every single day, which I'm very grateful for. But, at the end of the day, we share one thing in common, which is, we love freedom. We don't like people that abuse children. We don't like illegal wars, and so forth. And there's a ton of them.
So, in my opinion, you're passionate about different things that go on right now in this world. And I think in this world, we have a pocket of negative people who wait for that car accident to happen. And those might be the people watching your videos looking and craving drama and toxicity. What do you think about that?
I would ask you to elaborate on that a little bit, because as far as a car accident, I'm not exactly. Can you ask that question in a different way? And keep in mind, I'm an idiot with a backwards hat and a fake mic, so you gotta literally explain things to me like a little kid.
You're not an idiot. I've seen a lot of your interviews you've done that have nothing to do with auditing, and they get a lower view rate because you're not tapping into that audience. Instead, you're tapping into an audience that potentially may love and crave drama and wants to see the toxicity and drama unfold. That's why
you talking about the views. Are you referring to the auditing audience?
Yes. Any drama from that side, because there's more of an audience on the auditing side than there is the other side, which I think is a little messed up, because you do some really insightful interviews with some really big people.
I appreciate you saying that. So, this is just my own experience from interacting with the auditing community. I don't go and watch audit. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I will sit there, especially in certain videos, and I'll look through all the comments on my channel, Auditing America. But lately, I really don't do that. There's certain ones that I'm like, I'm really curious to how the audience will respond to this. But I guess even pull back even more, the show Cops was extremely popular and ran for I don't know how many seasons. And the auditing genre in general seems to be very popular because there's a spectrum, in my opinion. This is just my opinion here. There's a spectrum, right? There's some people that love cops. There's some people that hate cops. And then there's many people, I think most people, just love watching interactions between police. I mean, I don't know what it is. I couldn't describe the psychological reasoning behind that. But I mean, there's got to be some reason why people love watching cops so much, and people love watching auditing so much. There's definitely a viewership there. And I guess to answer your question in the best way that I possibly could is, it's a very diverse audience out there. You have some people that are, and so there's there's people that hate the auditors, people that love the auditors, and then there's some people that say, oh, well, the auditor did this and I didn't like that, and there's some people in between, and there's a whole spectrum, as I said. So some of the audience is very left-wing and they don't like the cops. Some of the audience is very right-wing and they believe in the fact that they understand that police are not constitutional. And they understand the fact that police are the standing army. And so you have a right-wing, left-wing thing. And then you have people that are kind of conspiracy-minded that get into this. And, that term itself, a conspiracy theorist, was created by the CIA. Anybody can go look it up, after the JFK assassination, because the CIA wanted to discredit anybody that had any real questions about the JFK assassination. So there's all these different, and then there's the cops, and there's the cop lovers there, that the cops cannot do anything wrong. And there's the supporters of the cops, but also can admit when they do something very wrong, and like when they stay to the Constitution. And then you have people that just love watching interactions between individuals and cops. So there's a lot of different people in this whole watching thing. That's why he has, nearly 100 million views on his channel, because it's not just one demographic. So, and I will say this too, there's auditors that, just like any group, there's good teachers, there's bad teachers, there's good auditors, there's bad auditors, there's good garbage men, bad garbage men, so forth. So, it's a very dynamic, multifaceted, nuanced thing. But yes, some of the people watching it, a large number of the people watching it, are just watching it because they like seeing drama. They like seeing people interact with the police, and they like that. It's the same reason I would guess that reality TV and the arguments and stuff like that is popular, and so forth.
Are all cops bad?
I don't think that all cops are bad people. However, I do believe that all cops are unconstitutional, except for 4. And I'll tell you the reason why. First of all, cops, we didn't have cops at the beginning of this country. Our founding fathers warned, several of them, Thomas Paine, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, they all warned about standing army. And they said that would be bad. Some of the first police officers started nearly 100 years after the start of this country, and they were for runaway slave catchers. So there are certain people on the right wing that argue that because there's no mention of police or sheriffs in the Constitution whatsoever, so they're inherently unconstitutional. Then there's right-wingers. This is the best argument I've ever heard. I haven't actually even heard another argument who say that the 10th Amendment basically gives states and or the people the right to provide for the safety and general welfare. Of course, I'm paraphrasing here again. I don't know the Constitution off the top of my head, but one day I will. But so they say that because the states withhold the rights to provide for the general welfare and safety of people, that allows a constitutional police force. But I would argue that since a police officer's job is to uphold the Constitution and protect your constitutional rights, having a police force would be redundant. And it also says it's not just reserved for the states, it's also for the people. So if the rights are reserved to the people and you already have the First Amendment, it would be nice, but it's not possible to have a cop next to you protecting your First Amendment all the time. Unfortunately, even before COVID, but during COVID, cops completely shut down the First Amendment. They enforced curfews, they broke up funerals, they broke up protests, and then even before COVID, the Second Amendment, cops were going and killing people for illegal red flag laws. They disarmed people all across in New York, Chicago. So even before COVID, and that's their one oath, and the cop can't sit next to you and protect you. Everybody knows that. If somebody came into my house right now, shot me dead, and if I called them like 2 seconds before, the best that the cops can do is come and clean me up. The only defense that you have is your own defense, which is your First Amendment, your Second Amendment, and so forth. So my argument, and it's also the argument of the founding fathers of this country, is that police are the enforcers and are inherently unconstitutional, one. And second of all, redundant, because a cop cannot help you secure your constitutional rights. And as we've seen, even before COVID, but after COVID, only 4 officers in this country that I know of said, I'm not going to enforce these laws. One of them was fired. So people make the argument, well, there's always a few bad apples. Well, when we have over 1 million cops, millions of cops in this country, in New York City alone, the budget for cops is over $1 billion. And only 4 of them upheld their oath to the Constitution during COVID, and one of them was fired. So we have 3 police officers out of millions, and they don't solve 90% of home invasions. They don't solve 90% of car theft. They don't solve 40 to 70% of murders. So yes, I believe that cops are inherently unconstitutional. But I guess one last caveat I would make to all of that is, whenever you work for a government, you're working for something that is inherently violent and immoral in any capacity, whether you be a cop, tax collector, city councilman. So you're doing something which is inherently against the non-aggression principle. However, just because you're working in that capacity doesn't mean that you can't do something positive and be a positive impact not only on the community, but as in the general society as a whole.
How often do you highlight good police officers in your videos?
Anytime I meet a good public official, I commend them like over the top.
Are they in your videos?
Absolutely. Both in my videos and Auditing America videos, there's never been a video. I can't speak for Anselmo, but I've been in his phone, I've seen his phone, and and Auditing always releases the passes too. So whether it's a cop or not.
Walk us through the birth of the whisk, how that came about, how you're so consistent holding that motherfucker in your hand. Walk us through the birth of the idea of, I'm going to walk around carrying a whisk.
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question, because it's one of the major questions that I'm always asked. And I'll give you my ideology behind it. So when I first started doing my channel, when I was on a very small time radio show here in Rhode Island, and when I would go out into the streets, I would always dress in like a peacoat and a suit, or a suit, a peacoat and a scarf, or a suit, and I would try to have my hair, cut very nicely, and I even bought a $30 microphone, which didn't work and didn't plug into anything, because I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm ghetto, right? I don't have a lot of money, right? I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I'm not the richest guy in the world, so I got to make do with what I got, right? So I bought a fake microphone, and my idea and my thinking was, hey, if I approach these people with a suit and a microphone, they hopefully will be more apt to respond to my questioning, because perception is everything. And obviously my channel is still very small, and before I met Auditing America, it was much smaller. So again, shout out to Auditing America. But as soon as I got on Auditing America, everyone, these guys notice everything. Whether they liked us or didn't, we already talked about the whole spectrum of people there. Everybody on Auditing America in the comments, they noticed everything. So they know right away that it was a fake microphone. You're like, what is this idiot doing? He's got a fake microphone. Who is he trying to fool? That's obviously not connected. So I kind of embraced it in the live chats and so forth. And then Anarchic Chick, shout outs to Anarchic Chick, Shelly, she said, hey, real news, fake mic. And I thought it sounded better, fake mic, real news. So I started doing that, and I would slam my mic on the ground in the intro. And then I went to do a live stream.
You got the idea from Shelly?
Yes. Well, part of it. It's a whole evolution. So I already had the fake mic. And then I embraced it. And then she said, real news, fake mic. And then I inverted it. And then I was going to do a live stream at Enrique's house. And I didn't have my mic. It was severely beat up from slamming it on the ground so much. I
saw that. I see how much you Gronk spiked this microphone. Yes. And I'm saying to myself, that's not going to be a microphone much longer.
Yeah, so long story short, then I went to Enrique's house, didn't have a microphone. We're doing a live stream, and that had become something that people noticed. And, you got to catch people, right? And something I've been studying a lot lately is rhetoric and how to reach people. Because like I said, I'm just an idiot that never graduated from college or anything with a backwards hat. And I'm trying to let people know about, hey, we got artificial intelligence. We've got Elon Musk announcing the Neuralink. We have people that have already been brain chipped. We've got child protective services. We have 800,000 children missing every single year. We have these illegal, unconstitutional wars going on. We have the NSA spying, GMO, fluoridation, da-da-da-da-da. So I've been studying rhetoric and how to be a better speaker lately, because that's something that I want to, you have to reach people. So, people love catchphrases. People love humor. As John Lennon said, the one thing the system doesn't like is nonviolence and humor. And so I kind of, back in high school, I was class clown. I was most unpredictable. And then I spent the last God knows how many years trying to be a serious revolutionary. And only now that I'm understanding rhetoric and so forth. But long story short, I was at his house. The closest thing that looked like a microphone was a whisk. And then from there, I looked at it and I was like, you know what? This represents transparency. This represents that I'm not wearing makeup. This represents that I'm not reading off a teleprompter. This represents the fact that I didn't cover up for Jeffrey Epstein and his sex crimes. This represents that I didn't lie about weapons of mass destruction. This represents the fact that I'm not like CNN or Fox or MSNBC or ABC or CBS, who will literally and have been caught numerous times fabricating entire stories out of thin air. Now, I may be flawed, I may be failed, but I will never intentionally lie to people on my videos. That's the whisk.
Do you feel like, here's my opinion. I'm okay with auditing. I'm a fan of auditing if it's a swing first mentality. If you sit back and if the police start to swing first and give you an attitude, then it's okay to interject yourself. But if you're going to call yourself a journalist sits back and documents what transpires and doesn't become part of the story. Your thoughts?
Well, I'll give you two answers. One is I've never claimed to be a journalist, but then two is I've actually also claimed to be a journalist. And I know that's a stupid answer, but I'll give you my reasoning. So I'm not up here trying to tell you that I'm a journalist, because I would never tell people that, like, I'm a comedian, I'm a journalist, I'm a this or that. That's just, I don't know, I wouldn't do that. But also, under the First Amendment, we're all journalists. Every single one. we don't have, it's not like other countries where, the USSR, we got state approved journalism. Nope. Here in the United States, everybody has the opportunity to be a journalist. And I guess as far as, you're talking proactively to the cops, I guess I would agree and disagree with you depending on the situation, because it's all the situation. So, sometimes I'll just film and I'll see what happens. And other times I'll just walk up to an officer and I'll say, and this is probably one of the biggest, the most frequent things that I'll address officers with, is I'll say something along these lines, and you guys can go back and look at Auditing America's videos to verify this, but I'll be like, hey, how are you doing? Thank you for your service. How seriously do you take your oath to the Constitution? Because it's not about cops. It's not that I have something against cops, because I don't, because I've confronted any and everybody outside of government service. I've confronted Alex Jones, Caitlin Bennett, Jack Posobiec, all these left and right wing figures. But I just want to make sure, because most cops don't know the Constitution, and it's not through any fault of their own, because, most cops are brainwashed just like most people are brainwashed. And people don't really, no offense to people or cops, but they haven't really sat there. They haven't read the writings of Thomas Paine. They haven't read the Constitution. They haven't read the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers, and they really don't understand what America is supposed to be. And unfortunately, because of federalization, militarization of the cops, they're often given illegal and unconstitutional orders. And when I go up to a cop and I say, hey, how seriously do you take your oath to the Constitution? I can guarantee you, in a number of cases, that was the first time they've ever had anybody ask them that question. So just imagine that you're a cop. You beat the basic, you get the training, you get in there, 6 months or whatever, put on the beat. And most cops don't make a lot of money. They're put in tough situations. They have to deal with a lot of shit. But they're never taught about the Constitution. But then my whole ideology is, I guess my argument for preemptive auditing would be, you know what? I'd like to tear at their emotional heartstrings, and I like to bring up the Constitution. I like to bring up our founding fathers. I like to bring up the Civil War and the civil rights heroes and say, hey, remember, people died. People gave blood, sweat, and tears so that Constitution and the freedoms that we have are still intact. So please, don't take any unconstitutional orders. Do the right thing and help us secure a free society for our children, because that is what you are paid to do, sir. And I hope you have a good day and stay safe. That's what I say in the majority of my encounters with police.
What's your take on the people who say there are videos where you cause, a disruption at a workplace? What are your thoughts on what people think about that?
Well, sure, we might cause a disruption in the workplace. I don't know what you're specifically referring to, but
like a post office. We've seen
the post office
videos where that's happened.
So there's a couple of routes that I could go with this, but the only if you follow the majority of and I would almost say 100%, but I wouldn't say 100% because even I haven't watched all of Auditing America's videos, although I've watched probably the majority of them. I never recall a time when Enrique spoke first at a post office. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I've never recalled a time where he did that. So if it's a distraction, the thing is, whether it's a distraction or not, we have to normalize the First Amendment. It's not going to just happen by natural flow. That's why he's out there doing this, right? So as far as the distraction at work, keep in mind that, how many times have we went in there and caught somebody scrolling through Facebook, having parties, having pizza parties, just on their phones, doing nothing, playing around, joking? I would say that the amount of times we've caught government fraud and miswaste far outnumbers the times that we've just sat there and filmed and then someone gets mad. So it might be a distraction, but the distraction is typically caused by somebody upset that they're being filmed. And that's part of the reason that I love what Auditing America does, is because we live in a society now where every business is filming you. Edward Snowden told you 7 years ago that we're completely spied on by the NSA. There's cameras everywhere. We're always being watched. And I think it's a beautiful thing that he can go into a post office or Congress or the Rhode Island State House or a police office and say, you know what? You guys have been filming us nonstop. You guys have been mining our data. You guys know everything. We talk about something and then it pops up on our cell phone. These people have been, I mean, Edward Snowden has admitted we've been spied on since 2013 and nobody bats an eye. But people get distracted or upset when somebody brings their cell phone in to a public building that we pay for. And so I think that's the beautiful thing that he does is he's bringing awareness to the fact that, hey, you know what? These giant multinational corporations, the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, they can all spy on you with your own tax money. And there's cameras in this building. I think it's a beautiful thing to say that, yeah, you guys can spy on us. You guys can waste trillions of dollars watching us. But you know what? We're the little guys, and we're going to watch you right back. So if it causes a small distraction at work of a giant megalithic government, which spends countless trillions of dollars continually subverting our rights, then I think it's a well worth it distraction. I mean, the Boston Tea Party was a distraction from King George, too.
So, what, in your opinion, do you think this is a movement, this whole 1A community? Like, do you think this is a movement?
I mean, I have no qualification to speak whether it's not a movement, but I think the justification for it being a movement is the millions upon millions of views, and people are enthralled on the left and the right and the pro-cop side, the anti-cop side, and everywhere in between. And you know, we got good, bad, and indifferent auditors, and people watch their views by the millions. So I believe it is a movement.
So with every movement, there's a leader. Take me to your leader.
I would disagree with that. I don't think in every movement there is a leader. I think that, for example, the computer hacking hacktivist collective known as Anonymous has existed for several years. And even now, shout outs to my people from Anonymous, not the black hats, not the CIA infiltrators, but Anonymous has been through a lot of stuff, and there's no clear leader in that group too. You are right, absolutely, in your assessment that most, if not all, groups have leaders. But even if there was a leader, I first of all, I wouldn't be the one to tell you who it is, because quite frankly, I have sampled others in the auditing community. I've watched a few videos from other prominent auditors out there, but like I told you earlier in this interview, especially if I'm out auditing, and even when when I'm not out there auditing, if I'm dealing with a governor, if I'm dealing with a presidential candidate, if I'm dealing with somebody, I mean, cops are just everywhere anyways, and they're protecting these people. So by default, I'm dealing with police officers. The last thing that I want to do when I get home is watch more videos of people interacting with cops, especially negative interactions. I just don't want to see that. I already know my rights. I already know what I'm going to do. I want to be learning something else, right? So I wouldn't say that there's any leader in this movement, but there's definitely people that have a lot of subscriptions and a lot of views. And there's some people that subscribe to all of them, and there's some people that subscribe to just certainly one channel, and they have their favorites. So I think it differs, but I wouldn't be the person to give you a good answer on that, unfortunately.
So should there be a leader? I mean,
no,
with
absolutely
all
not.
There's a leader.
I believe in no rulers. I believe in self-sovereignty, and I'm not talking about sovereign citizenship or whatever, anything like that. But I believe in everybody has to be their own leader. Unfortunately, it's just human nature, it's evolution, it's God, whatever you'd like to call it. But you know, the only person you can trust to do what's in your best interest is you, and that's the bottom line. The problem is, I believe, is we've been subverting our rights and not participating in this Constitution. Remember, the only way this constitutional republic works is if we are active participants. That's not my opinion. That's the opinion of the founding fathers who made this country. And I understand some of them were good, bad, and indifferent. And I understand this was a different time. But if you really want to be an American and you really love America, then you have to participate in this. This democracy, this constitutional republic. if you will.
So we did a little mock stream the other day. We did a 1A code of conduct, and I want you to kind of break that down for me if you can. Are you able to see the screen?
Not really. No, I'm on my phone. I can't see that, unfortunately.
So the first thing on the 1A code of conduct is do your homework research. Make sure where you're standing is public. Make sure everything you're doing is legal. Make sure you cover your bases and make sure everything's done as far as research is concerned and homework. Make sure you cover your bases. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Do not call the police on yourself.
Yeah, I would agree on that.
Maintain self-control.
For the most part, I would agree with that. However, I mean, I've lost self-control. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on maintaining self-control. But, you know, I think there's also something to be said about, and again, I'm studying rhetoric, and there's good and bad in all this. But sometimes when you flip out and you have a moment of righteous indignation, that can also be a positive thing, because people really connect when you're genuine and you're impassioned, and you might be yelling and screaming, and there's sometimes you can yell and scream and it's not a good thing, right? But then there's sometimes that you can yell and scream and it's an impassioned plea for freedom. So maintain your composure, you know, maintain your calmness, but I also don't think that there's anything wrong with an impassioned plea for liberty.
Let's go over. So do you have a highlight? Not a high. Well, pretty much a highlight of the when you lost your cool.
Do I have a highlight? I mean, I've lost my cool so many times. I mean, that's why I tell people to get involved, is because, like I say, I'm just an idiot with the backwards hat.
What's the top of your head audit you've done where you said to yourself, man, I really lost my cool there? When and why?
Audit specifically? Let's see. You know, it's tough to tell. I mean, I can't even tell you how many hundreds of audits. Let me see. That's a tough question. I mean, I can't really off the top of my head right now. I'm sure if I went through my videos and Enrique's videos, I could find one that stood out more than others. Off the top of my head, I can't. But I mean, sometimes I will yell and scream at people because, you know, I mean, it comes to a point where if you're not going to uphold the Constitution and you're going to act like a tyrant, I'm going to spaz on you, right? I mean, Thomas Jefferson said, disobedience to tyrants is obedience to God. And when someone clearly defines their side as anti-constitutional, anti-freedom, and just taking the directions of Marxist, then I can't help it sometimes. I'll yell and scream at them, you know? So, I mean, it's happened a number of times. It's happened so many times that I don't know if I could just go ahead and say one. But, yeah, but there's definitely a number of occasions where that occurred.
Have you ever had to take a video down, and if so, why?
No, I don't think I've taken a video down. I'm trying to think. I mean, I did do a live stream video, which I wanted to edit, where there's a Boston vaccine video, a protest, which I was supposed to edit, and I never edited. And I actually should go back and edit that video. So, I mean, it was live, but then I just made it private after the fact because I wanted to go back and edit it and make it more concise, because people, unfortunately, have a short attention span. They've actually done a study, anybody can Google it, that people have a shorter attention span than goldfish. So I wanted to go back and edit the best parts out, because I think that, you know, it's all about headline, right? You know, you don't want to have a, you know, 40, and I've also found that after 45 minutes, people just tend to, you know, trail off. So I wanted to make that more concise. That video is still private, so look forward to that video coming soon. Maybe I'll just make it completely public. And then also there was one other time, which was my Bill Gates video. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that video, but my Bill Gates video, and I'm going to protect the anonymity of people who were involved here, but I went to Bill Gates' house with a friend of mine, and we drove up in their car, which was owned by the company. It's their car, but it was under the company name, and we parked off to the side. I went up, and I said, hey, is Bill there? On the little teleconference gate there. I guess it wasn't teleconference, just audio conference gate there, but they could see me. I couldn't see them, obviously. So I was like, hey, is Bill there? hey, I'm a YouTuber, just wanted to talk to him. Waited a couple minutes while he checked or whatever, or said somebody's there. I don't know what was going on. Then they came back and they said, hey, yeah, no, he's not available. I said, well, he did give $2 million to Jeffrey Epstein after he got caught raping children. And recently somebody was caught on his property having child porn. And maybe you should look into that. Maybe you shouldn't work for Bill anymore. So I left. And then a couple days later, or the next day and then the following day also, the company that person worked for, their computers were down, completely black, their phones were off, and they asked me, they said, hey, Will, could you not have this video up right now? Because if you keep this video up, my boss is telling me that they're going to fire me. And it sucked, but I did. And I took the video down for a little while. And that's one of those things. Should I do that? Should I not do that? But that person is my friend, and that person looked out for me and helped me do a bunch of other things. And it wouldn't be very beneficial to me if that person got fired and was unable to help me in the future. Or, it wouldn't be good for me to have somebody help me, and then they're out homeless on the streets. That's not a responsible thing. So but I did later release that video after the smoke had all cleared. So I guess those are the two times. So look forward to the Boston vaccine and pro and anti-vaccine video coming soon. I guess I'll just make that public without editing it. Who knows? And then the Bill Gates video, which is now public.
So the fourth one is choose your battles wisely, be prepared for consequences. What are your thoughts on that?
Choose your battles wisely, I think is good. That can mean a number of things. Whether it's where or when you choose to take an audit, or when you're at an audit, what you choose to do. And what was the second part? Sorry?
Be prepared for consequences.
Absolutely be prepared for consequences. I was arrested in Woonsocket. The case was later dismissed. I'm also dealing with the fact that for my freedom of speech, I was arrested at a DCYF protest that I helped organize, and I'm dealing with the system for that now. So yes, you can absolutely be arrested for doing nothing illegal whatsoever, and don't look for any help from the system or independent lawyers either. So yes, I would agree.
And the last one is build relationships.
I mean, with other auditors, maybe, I don't know. I mean, auditors are just like every other group of people. I mean, I'm sure there's differences in certain ways, but there's good auditors, there's bad auditors. I don't think it's necessarily important to build relationships with auditors. I mean, I'm all about community, and my whole thing since becoming an activist or an advocate, whatever the hell you want to call it, is trying to unite us to work together. But I mean, it's good to build relationships with people and help share information. But I mean, we need to get to the point where we're all on the same page. I mean, there's going to be thousands of things we disagree on, but if we can start agreeing that illegal war is bad, the child trafficking is bad, and the subversion of our rights is bad, then that's a great place to start coming together, making relationships, and working together towards a nonviolent solution in that aspect.
The chat wants to know, what are your thoughts on John Abrams? I'm sorry. Apparently it's a guy named Josh Abrams. What are your thoughts on Josh Abrams?
Well, I can't say I've met. I've met Josh Abrams once. He was live streaming at the Trump rally that I got kicked out of, which is another story. Outside of it, I was walking by. He interviewed me briefly, and we didn't talk on or off camera. You guys can see that on his live stream. He walked up, saw me. Hey, Will Turbitt, you do stuff for the DCYF kids or something, right? I forget what the conversation was about, and then he walked away. Then I also saw him at the Boston Straight Pride event shortly before he was arrested. Those are my only two interactions with Josh Abrams. I know he has a channel. I know he's got a fair amount of subscribers, but those are my only two interactions with Josh Abrams that I've ever had personally or privately. So,
if he contacted you to go on an audit, your response?
Probably not. No offense towards Josh Abrams specifically or anything like that, but I do audits for sure. But right now, I'm working on a couple things that are pretty interesting and could hopefully, if everything gets uncovered right, work. So I shouldn't say no. I'm always willing to work with anybody that really wants to truly make a difference. Now, I don't know Josh Abrams. Like I said, those are the only two interactions I have. I hear people talking to me. He's a bad guy. He's a terrible guy. I hear all this hate about him, and then I hear there's good things about him. I don't know. So I can't tell you. But I mean, maybe or maybe not an audit. But hey, if he wanted to audit DCYF with me or something like that, yeah. I mean, I've got so many projects going on, as you know, besides auditing, that I would welcome the help from pretty much anybody, except for, I guess, and I mean, I don't want to even discount any segment of the population. So, I mean, yes and no. I'm working my own projects right now, which I feel very passionate about, and I welcome the help from any and everybody. But auditing is not top of my perspective. So if Josh, hey, if you're out there, brother, you want to come help me with my projects, you want to help me with my blockchain project, you want to help me with the DCYF, the missing kids, the unconstitutional wars, all that other stuff, you help me with that, I'll go do an audit with you.
He watches every show, so he just heard you.
All right. Well, shout out to Josh Abrams then. Hopefully, I'll do an audit with him if he comes and helps me do one of my things. I'm willing to work. I'm willing to work with anybody, even people that consider me their enemies, right? So I get a lot of hate from people out there, but there's nobody out there that I think, even the people that hate me, that like war, that like child trafficking, that like their rights being taken away from. So, I mean, even if you guys hate me or if I hate you on 99% of things, let's come together on the 1% of things and work together. And then once we live in a better place, then we can go ahead and rail on each other.
I want your thoughts on Glenn Cerio.
All right, Glenn Cerio, Auditing the USA. He messaged me, I don't know how long ago, was like, hey, love what you and Mr. America are doing. You guys are awesome. I'm going to start my own channel. Cool, man. Great. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Talk back and forth a little bit. Started his channel. Quickly, his channel got more subscribers than I did. And he got a lot of views. Now, I've heard recently, and so I don't want to speak on this because I haven't confirmed this, because his Facebook account that I was communicating with him is no longer there. And even before I've heard these allegations about him, his Facebook account would come and go. And it said, you know how, like, if someone's Facebook account said you can no longer reply to this conversation. That's happened before this event. But someone put to my attention that he had potentially went on a racist rant.
Yes, he did.
Okay. Can you confirm that 100%?
I could play it if you want to hear it.
Oh, no. I mean, so that's fine. So what I would say to that is this.
He said the racial word over a dozen times.
Yeah, okay. So I saw that. I wasn't even sure if that was him. But if it was him, I will say this. I will absolutely say this. I decry all racism. And I 125%, 1,000, a million, a quadrillion, Googleplex, decry anybody using racism whatsoever. Racism is one of the stupidest, oldest, most ignorant divide and conquer tactics that anybody can ever use. Now, not sticking up for Glenn, however, and I don't know, because you, again, you're asking me about people that I don't know too much about. But I've also heard, and this is not making any excuse for him, that Glenn may possibly be neurodiverse, and that may be the reason he did it. That does not excuse his actions. So if he did that, and he's neurodiverse, he needs to come out and say, 1, I'm an idiot, 2, I'm sorry, 3, that was really, really bad, and I will never do anything like that again. So just to make it abundantly clear, I decry racism from anybody. If he did that, and you're saying it's confirmed, I saw the video, I totally decry that. Nobody should ever be called that word, ever.
Do you feel like there's a place for him in the 1A movement?
So I'm no person to be telling you what the 1A movement is or should or shouldn't be. However, like I said at the beginning of this here, Saul was a murderer of Christians, and he went on to become one of the greatest Christians. So we're all imperfect. And then there's varying degrees of imperfect. Some people lie and say to the girlfriend, yeah, you don't look fat in that dress, or you look great, right? And then there's people that lie about weapons of mass destruction, and that kills millions of people, right? So, but at the same time, I'm a big believer in forgiveness. I mean, I think we're all humans here. None of us are perfect. So, I mean, if Glenn was to come out, and this is all, like, I can't say for sure about all this is true or all of it's not true.
It's 100. I can play the video.
Yeah, no, you don't even have to. But let's just say, so taking for account that it's real. But I would say, if Glenn came out and said, look, that was terrible. What I did was completely ignorant, was completely racist. I should have never done that. That was one of the stupidest things. I'm going to be stricken with guilt for the rest of my life because I did that. And I'm going to go do a video right now apologizing to that officer and begging for his forgiveness and saying, even if you don't forgive me, I need to tell you this apology, and I'm severely wrong. And if he did that, I mean, who am I to judge anybody, right? I mean, I've done terrible things in my life too. So, I mean, and also, should he come back to the community? I don't have a say in that anyways, right? I mean, any communist, any neo-Nazi, anybody with a cell phone can pick it up and pretend to be an auditor and say they're an auditor and say whatever they want. And that's the thing about movements, whether the left wing or right wing or First Amendment auditing or whatever have you, anti-vax, pro-vax, whatever. And Teddy Roosevelt made a quote talking about this, and he's a crazy mother Hubbard too. But in every movement, there's a small amount of people that are going to go and do dumb shit just because they're dumb people. I mean, even with the rioters and the looters, on whether they be after the Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl or if they're Black Lives Matter Antifa people, some of these people that are in there doing these things, they don't care about Super Bowl. They don't care about Black lives. They just want to. This is just a perfect excuse for them to go do something stupid. How many people like to feed their narcissism, like to be on video, or like to, hey, this is a way to make money for some people, So
I feel like it's a responsible stance for any auditor, not just you, just anybody in the movement, to go out of their way publicly and denounce what he did. That creates more unity in a movement. Your thoughts?
I would agree. Like I said, I'm going to actually see if I can get in touch with Glenn and see what he has to say about that. Because like I said, I've been unable to contact him for probably a couple months now. He was the one that initially messaged me. We go back and forth, and then sometimes he just messaged me from another Facebook account or whatever. But like I said before, absolutely, everybody should denounce all forms of racism at all times, not just with Glenn, but with everybody. Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Do you feel like everybody is? I kind of make the pro wrestling analogy where I essentially say that you're all independent contractors, and what I mean by that is you don't really work for one entity. You just do your own thing. But the thing with independent contractors is there's always unity at the end of it. In this movement, I don't see unity at all. I think this movement needs to build the bridges with the good cops and get the good cops, work with the good cops to get the bad cops out. Because the quickest way, you and I both know, we live in a world about politics. It's all about who you know, rubbing elbows. And the quickest way to get a bad cop out is by getting the assistance from the good cops. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with you as far as what to do. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We need to work with the good cops. I could not agree more. Problem lies where we have the cops having unions, the cops having diplomatic immunities. And as a matter of fact, off record, I've spoken to 2 former police officers from this very area in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, Connecticut. And they've told me that they have tried their best to expose corruption and then had people surpass them, people that were on the force for like 20 less years. And they've told me about a lot of corruption as well, too. So it's difficult. It's not as easy as it sounds. Like, yeah, let's just go work with the good cops and get these bad guys out of there. I mean, if it was that easy, yeah. But It's not that easy, but it is absolutely something that we need to do.
So I'm gonna play the Cerio thing. It's censored, so but you get a good gist of what happened. This is about a month ago. This happened. The Massel report was the first.
No, I mean I've heard this too, and my only I've watched this video as a matter of fact, but I know that people can modify and change videos, and you know, I mean, is this his? I mean, okay, go ahead, play the video. I don't know. Is this his channel that it's up on?
This was recorded by him.
Okay, and okay.
Fuck you, fucking nigger. Fuck you, fucking nigger. I just called you a fucking nigger. What are you gonna do about it? I just called you a fucking nigger.
Yeah, that's absolutely disgusting. You don't have to even play anymore. That sounds like his voice. That sounds like his voice.
Send him.
Yep, that sounds like his voice. I totally decry that. There's no room in the auditing community whatsoever for that. There's no room in the auditing or any other activism advocate community. If you're going to do that, then you got to go to another community like the KKK.
Do you feel like there needs to be more auditors to do it? I mean, this has been a month now. You know, do you think there needs to be more of you to publicly go at and say this isn't okay? This is wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. More people. Everybody needs to decry that. But then again, I don't know how many people even like that. That's the thing. Is like, yes, the easy first answer is absolutely yes. Anybody that knows about it needs to decry this. But I mean, I don't know if these James Freemans, these San Joaquins. I mean, I know Mr. America Enrique. I know he doesn't watch Glenn's videos. And what's my boy's name from Colorado out there too? I mean, I don't know if they watch this guy's videos or not. I mean, I don't watch this guy's videos. You know what I'm saying? I just don't have time for that. But yes, anybody that watches his videos and knows about this and knows about it to be true should absolutely decry it 100%. There's no room for racism in any movement except for the KKK or neo-Nazi groups.
Do you think there's two factions between auditors and frauditors?
Yeah, I mean, simple answer is maybe. I mean, I guess my answer would be, like any profession, every single personality is unique. Every single personality is unique. And I'm sure that there's people that go out there and just do this for narcissism and clicks and views. And I know for a fact, I know I'm out there doing what I do. I mean, I'm not doing this for clicks and views. If I was doing this for clicks and views, I wouldn't target the Democrats, the Republicans, science, religion. I mean, I call out everybody, right? That doesn't help you get clicks and views. If I was doing this for clicks and views, you know, I would sing a song or do comedy or unbox toys or something like that. So I guess I would address the fraudsters and say, if you're doing this for clicks and views, then you're an idiot. You're really an idiot. Or any type of activism. Get out of it right now. Get out of it right now. But unfortunately, with every movement, there's good people, there's bad people. Everybody's personality is different, and everybody has a different mindset. Everybody has lived different lives, had different traumas and different experiences, just like teachers. So, I mean, I wouldn't divide teachers into one camp. I wouldn't divide two camps or any other profession, garbage men, into specifically two camps. I think it's more of a spectrum where you get a multitude of personalities, and everybody comes with their own ideology and intentions. So
a good majority of people became aware of Glenn because of Ansamo. And I think it's wrong for Ansamo to not publicly decry Glenn.
Well, I can tell you right now that, to the best of my knowledge, Mr. America Enrique has no idea about that. I was sent that video by somebody. I watched a couple seconds of it, and then I stopped watching because it infuriated me. And like, no offense to Glenn, but he's like my priority list. I could show you my to-do list. It's pages long, and you know, I mean,
racism should be high on that list.
I'm sorry?
I think racism should be high on that list.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
It's one of the biggest topics right now with George Floyd.
Yeah, exactly. And so rather than, focusing on one racist guy, I would like to talk about the things that are more prolific, the larger, because him being racist to that and acting like an idiot and saying these racist slurs to that one cop, that's a terrible thing. But also, I mean, we have systematic racism. We have the largest child sex trafficking ring. I guess just to use one comparison is I could sit there and do a video about Glenn, and just as I would still reach out to Glenn and see if he did this, just as any journalist would do. I'm not saying he did or didn't do this, but at the same time, I mean, when we have democide, which is caused the most deaths ever. We have the largest child sex trafficking ring of all time. We have illegal unconstitutional wars. One guy on a racist rant. I mean, there's racist rants all day on YouTube. It's like focusing on that is, I mean, I decry it. I totally decry it. But at the same time, we got bigger fish to fry than one random racist dude.
I don't think it's random if it happens in your movement.
Well, as I said, like I told you before, I don't watch. I mean, I would say if I had to put a number on it, outside of Auditing America's videos, I probably watched conservatively less than 25 videos of audits. I would probably less than 20. That's how little. Like I said, I could show you my stack of books here, and I could show you my playlists on my YouTube. I don't get into this. I don't watch San Joaquin. No offense, shout outs to you. I've watched a couple James Freeman videos. I just don't watch it. I just don't watch Glenn's channel. No offense to Glenn, but he was just somebody. Hey, I'm gonna start a channel because of you. And what I do with my free time is I try to learn things that I don't already know. Right? I know auditing. Right? I mean, I'm sure there's some nuances and some good ideas I could find through that, but I know auditing. I want to learn about rhetoric. I want to learn about geopolitics. I want to learn about artificial intelligence. I want to learn about how I can make my message better. I want to expose the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations. So I just don't, I mean, I've maybe watched 1.25 of Glenn's videos. So, I mean, yes, I should decry it, and I did decry it, and I will continue to decry any and all forms of racism, but I just don't also know how. I mean, I can speak for myself. I probably watched less than 20, 25 auditing videos ever. So this is a community for sure. I don't know how close the community is, and speaking to me on that I'm probably the wrong person because I just don't watch auditors like that. No offense to any auditors, but I know what y'all do. I'd rather learn about the secrets of ancient Kemet. You know what I'm saying?
I just feel like the advocate in you, a big part of being an advocate is shining a light on any injustice in this world. And that's what an advocate should do. Shine a light on injustice.
Yes, I agree with you. And the thing is, there's so many injustices out there. I don't have time to cover it all. And I have to pick and choose what I get to cover. So here's the opportunity. We've covered this for a few minutes, and I'll continue to say it. I totally decry Glenn's actions that day. I totally decry a white person saying to a black person using the N-word. Totally decry whatever he said in that video. Totally, unambiguously, that was stupid as shit. That was racist. That was ignorant, and you were a moron for doing that. Now, if you want to come back into humanity, you best do a video. You best apologize to that guy. You best say you were mistaken. You best say you were neurodiverse, and you will say you never will ever do that again. And yes, you're right. Literally, dude, we could talk about so much injustice right now. I mean, we're right now talking about me. We're talking about me when we could be talking about the Council on Foreign Relations. We could be talking about the Bilderberg Group. We could be talking about Epstein and Maxwell and what's going on there. I mean, right now, you and I could be talking about more productive things.
All right. So let's talk about you do a lot of work with advocacy for children. What started you to get involved in child activism, and how challenging it is that work for you, that battle?
Well,
what was the birth of it? Like, what was the birth?
Well, the birth of it, I mean, long story made very short is when I first came across certain things like the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, Bohemian Grove, and the truth about 9/11, I spent a couple of years really looking at 9/11. And when I saw that, that led me down other rabbit holes. And then when I saw what was going on, 800,000 children in this country go missing every single year. And then I realized, you know, maybe we should talk about fluoride or GMOs. And goes back to philosophy, right? What should we talk about, right? What's the biggest thing? You know, was it racism with Glenn? Is it the missing kids? Is it this or is it that, right? And how much of a balance should we have, right? And then I got to the point where it's like, oh, there's these issues, there's that issues, but it's like, I mean, if I can't get people to agree that missing children is a bad thing, then I don't know what the hell I can do. And as far as, I mean, and you know, the left likes to have their, and again, I'm not a left or right wing person, I'm a political atheist, but the left has their levels of oppression. And on the left or right wing, what's more oppressed than children that are missing and trafficked? I couldn't think of any. So I thought, hey, that's a great idea to start with. I mean, I started with other ideas, but hey, this should be something that people can work with. And am I, is it frustrating? Is it difficult? Maybe so, but I mean, not really. I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, it's tough to go to sleep when you realize that the people in power literally don't give a care about this. Trista Piccola, former head of DCYF, Gina Raimondo, they just don't care. They literally don't care. And I started as a crazy guy, and I never even said DCYF should be abolished, which I do believe it should be abolished. But I would never even say that at first. Then, fast forward to the last time Trista Piccola, former head of DCYF, was in front of our local representatives, the Democrats and the Republicans were saying DCYF should be abolished. So, I mean, is it tough when you realize that people really don't care about the plight of children and they're just giving lip service because they like to be a politician or they like to be in front of people? Yeah, it's freaking infuriating. But at the same time, I mean, I'm not storming the beaches of Normandy right now, you know?
So, I was talking to you before, like a week or so ago, about conspiracy theories, and I know you can go as deep as Lexington Steel, in my opinion, with that. But I want to kind of touch on the iceberg, and I want to touch on two things. I want to talk about 9/11, and I want to talk about the Vegas shooting.
Sure.
Neither of those two add up. I find it highly ironic that one specific spot in the Pentagon was hit because of the financial records, the debt, everything. Every surveillance footage was seized, never to be seen again. What are your thoughts? If I mean, there's so many stories about I think this, I think that. If I had to lock you down and say I need your official theory of what happened and why on September 11th, 2001.
Sure. My official theory of what happened and why, I'll say this briefly, and I would say this first and foremost, I don't know exactly. I don't know. I don't know everything. So, and I also understand that 6 out of the 10 people that were on the 9/11 Commission, they call for a new investigation. 75% of the victims' family members were never answered, and a large number of those people call for a new investigation. But if I was to give my opinion, there is a document called the Project for the New American Century, which included a full year before 9/11 occurred, which included several members of the would-be Bush administration, and they said, expanding our military sphere would be a difficult and tumultuous task, barring some type of cataclysmic event like a new Pearl Harbor. And then a year later, you have that. My smoking gun for 9/11 is this. Who ultimately was behind it? We do know one thing for a fact. The U.S. government, bare minimum, stood down. The major number one anomaly of 9/11 is Building 7. And I will give you hopefully less than 2-minute breakdown of why we need a new investigation, and especially on Building 7. Everybody knows about the Twin Towers. The World Trade Center is a complex. We had Towers 1 and 2, but then we also had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, Building 7 was a 47-story skyscraper. It would have been the largest building itself in over 40 states. There were buildings that were closer and hit with debris and never fell. This building, as I said, is over a football field away, was never hit by a plane, and fell symmetrically into its own footprint, breaking the laws of physics in less than 8 seconds. Now, that's not even the most important thing. BBC, ABC, and local Fox News reported Building 7 down before it collapsed. And in the case of BBC, it was still in the background of the shot, and they were claiming it's collapsed. So there is no physical way Building 7 could fall upon itself. And then some people could say, well, if it wasn't just the US, maybe Al-Qaeda got up into the Building 7 somehow and brought it down. And we also have Larry Silverstein, who was the leaseholder of that building, saying, we've had enough loss of life today, we said we'll just pull it. So Building 7 came down in less than 9 seconds into its own footprint and was broadcasted down before it was even down. And I mean, don't even get me started on the Pentagon.
So what's your thoughts on the Las Vegas shooting? I find it hard to believe that one person could smuggle in all those guns undetected and do that amount of damage in that short period of time. Well,
I unfortunately don't have a great amount of information particularly, and I'll tell you the reason why. If you guys want to learn more about that, on my YouTube channel, I have a video with Fritz Springmeier, who literally wrote the book, 13 Bloodlines of the Illuminati. He's one of the conspiracy godfathers. I've had the fortunate chance of interviewing him several times, and he breaks down Las Vegas. I've also had Shepard Ambulis on, who runs one of the largest, most visited websites in the entire world, and he had a very interesting breakdown of Las Vegas. And we also had world exclusives on that video. Too bad nobody saw that, but I have 2 videos on Las Vegas shooting. But I guess I'm going to answer your question in a different way. So, like you said, the Pentagon, the most highly guarded, technologically advanced defense mechanism in the history of the entire world, not only had all of its cameras shut down, but all the cameras around that shut down and seized. Lady died when she went through the tunnel, all of those stopped working. Epstein's camera stopped working, Las Vegas cameras stopped working, Boston bombing, on and on and on. You have cameras everywhere. You have cameras everywhere, and they never do the job. They always conveniently shut off when it's important. That's why I think it's very important that what the 1A community does is because they're saying, yeah, you guys spy on us with trillions of dollars and never use them when they're actually needed. So we're going to bring our cell phones. So yes, unfortunately, I can't tell you much about Las Vegas because we have no information about Las Vegas. We have no information about Las Vegas. And when we confronted the Las Vegas police, not we particularly, but the community of people that are encouraging truth and transparency, we confronted the Las Vegas Police Department with different information, and they had to change their timeline. So we can't trust people who have lied to us before. And the fact that there's cameras missing, there's no evidence, and unfortunately just adds up to another one of those things. You know, Epstein's cameras went missing, 9/11, nobody cares. You know, it's okay for the NSA to illegally spend trillions of dollars to spy on us, but you know, it's just overlooked all the time when one of the most important events in human history happened. To justify this entire spy grid, it just happened to magically go blank.
I find the police scanner chatter about the helicopter by the airport interesting with Vegas. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not familiar with that. I know there are people. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on DB Cooper? If you can briefly tell the story of the story of the DB Cooper. And
yeah, well,
what do you think about who DB Cooper was? Do you think he survived the jump? Do you think he lived? All that stuff.
Well,
where's the money too?
Good question. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you on this one. According to the limited amount of knowledge I have on this one, DB Cooper was a guy. He hijacked a plane, I believe it was in the 60s, asked for a bunch of money, jumped off the plane, and nobody's ever found him since. Kind of like one of those Jack the Ripper stories, the good old whodunits. Nobody knows what really happened to him. I believe, cover briefly, or maybe I just saw it, didn't cover it. There was a new theory that came out recently. I don't know. I couldn't tell you either way what happened. Some people say that he was a regular guy. Some people say that he was somebody that was working on the CIA to check the defenses of what we had to protect us from potential terrorists, but I have no proof one way or the other.
I want to get your thoughts on the Boston bombing. Do you think that has the media portrayed it, or do you think there's more to the story? If so, what is that?
I definitely think there's more to the story. Absolutely. Again, this is one of the things where we don't have video of them placing any of the bombs there. We also have the fact that these people went door to door in Watertown, and completely subverted citizens' rights for two people. I also think that the fact that in Boston and the surrounding areas were completely shut down for these folks is crazy. Also, we have the lawyer, I believe, of the one Sarnev guy saying he's being railroaded. But you never know. I mean, I can't speak to a lot of the specifics on that, but I definitely believe whether it's the Boston bombing, Las Vegas, I mean, some of these situations I know more about than others, but I find it very difficult to garner great information on a lot of this. Like it's like the Sandy Hook shooting, right? Or something else, because there's a lot of anomalies with the Boston bombing. There's a lot of anomalies with 9/11. There's a lot of anomalies with Las Vegas. But because the media is that fourth branch and they protect and they've been caught lying about these situations, we're getting all of our information from them. And when they withhold information and they lie to us, it's very difficult to develop a fluid, thorough belief on something. So I can't take any belief. What I would say is it's definitely something that warrants more investigation, and we need to look into it. And I would implore all people to become independent researchers or journalists, because we've obviously seen now that we can't rely on the mainstream media to do that job. They just not only have not done that job, not only have they covered up for pedophile rings, not only have they fabricated stories out of thin air, not only have they lied about things bringing us to war, not even just weapons of mass destruction, babies and incubators. They lied about the Gulf of Tonkin incident that got us into Vietnam. We need, and that's why I do what I do, is because we just can't trust known liars anymore. And I'd just like to give a shout out to everybody out there that's investigating on their own. That's what we need to do. It's tough because I just can't tell you what happened, and it's been so long. I can't even remember most of the anomalies that occurred that day. It's unfortunate because I'm just like a normie at this point, where it's like something happens and it's like, yeah, that's gone. That's gone.
So I have
we'll never know.
So I have a two-part question for both of what you do. What is the closest you've gotten to violence auditing? And second question is, have you ever been in fear of your life when you have covered a story? When and why?
I've never, ever been on the brink of violence ever in auditing. I'm a totally nonviolent person. I don't have a nonviolent, I have a nonviolent record. I've never committed any criminal violent acts ever. It never even crosses my mind to ever be violent to a cop, ever. I mean, even if I wanted to, which I would never want to do that, because going to that John Lennon quote I talked about, they said, the system will pull you here, they'll flick your beard, they'll do anything to make you violent. Because when you're violent, they know how to deal with you. And nonviolence never changes anything. As Albert Einstein said, you can never solve a problem with the same form of consciousness that created it. So you can't solve a violent problem with more violence. That just creates more violence. So I've never, ever wanted to be violent to a police officer, even thinking about it. Like later on, you know how you get mad, be like, oh man, I wish I could punch, this person or that person. That's never even crossed my mind. What was the other part? Sorry.
So my other part was, have you ever been in fear of your life ever, like covering a story? Because, there's a lot of exposing with journalistic work. Have you ever felt in fear of your life ever covering a story, and when and why?
No, I mean, I have gotten a little worried here and there. I mean, I've confronted the Clintons multiple times, Bidens, Bill Gates. I've confronted like literally the most important and dangerous people in this world, and they know me by a first name basis, like literally a first name basis. But I realized a long time ago going into this that it doesn't make a difference. Like, I'd be glad if Hillary Clinton sent somebody to my house right now and killed me, because that would mean, one, I didn't die like a bitch, just bending over and doing nothing about it. But two, then all the other smarter people like you and all the other people in the audience would actually take up my mantle, and you say, well, maybe this guy's not crazy. Maybe this guy is not a weirdo. Maybe he's not a lunatic, and maybe what he was saying is factual and true. And I do my best every single time on every single my report to do something that's factual, non-debatable, and out of the horse's mouth itself. So, I mean, I've had people call me things that are completely fraudulent about me. And yeah, I worry about that a little bit. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'd rather be called false things and murdered than be in my 70s and 80s and my grandkids come up to me, hey, Will, when the longest, most illegal, unconstitutional war was going on, when people were being body snatched off the streets, when children were being stolen, when artificial intelligence happened and started taking over society, when genetically modified foods and fluoride and happened, what were you doing? So, I'm going to be able to say I wasn't playing video games. I wasn't talking about drama about people. I wasn't unboxing toys. I was on the front line doing things. So if anybody wants to come kill me and come get me, they know where that I am. People make threats to me all the time on my YouTube channel. What if I told you I was following you, Will? What if I told you this is your last time to live? Hey, Will, this is your address. This is where you live. Oh, this is your mom. This is this. Dog, I don't care. Come get me. I really don't care.
So so there's a question from Booze Now 702. Ask him, why do we park on driveways and drive on parkways?
That's a very good question. I would return that question with another question. Why are grocery store doors smaller on the way out than when they're on the way in?
That's a very good question.
And I'd ask him him or her another question. Is God powerful enough to create a rock or stone that he or her himself would be unable to move?
So there's a lot of people asking what the fuck is the deal with the whisk. Do you feel like the whisk may take you a little less serious because you are holding a kitchen ornament?
Yes. And that's actually part of the great part about it. And that's goes back to the question you asked earlier about what was the best thing that Mr. America taught me. The First Amendment, I don't care. I mean, before I used to care about people. That's why I had a suit and a fake mic. It didn't work, right? You got to be yourself. You have to be yourself. I'm not going to pretend to be anybody anymore, right? I was pretending to be a serious journalist with the I mean, they might not take me serious. People might not take me serious, but at the same time, that's why this country was started. That's why the First Amendment is beautiful, because you don't have to be a king to be taken serious. I mean, some people may not take me serious, and that's cool.
But do you find it a little odd that you're diving into serious, deep subjects where you need to educate the masses, and there are people who don't take you serious because of a stupid, I'm not saying it's stupid, but because of a whisk?
Oh, yeah. I mean, but at the same time, too, you have to realize that those people might not take me seriously. That's fine. I'm not for you. But also, I think part of the reason that people don't take the media and politicians seriously, and that's part of the reason, like I said, I'm no fan of any politician, the exception of maybe Ron Paul. The part of the reason that Donald Trump won is because he's not a politician. He's not reading off a teleprompter like all these people. He's not off the mainstream news. And you know what? I'm just being myself. And there's other people in this movement that are the credible people. You know, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to interview TED speakers, not TEDx speakers, people that have multiple degrees from MIT, CIA whistleblowers, neuropsychologists. I've been lucky enough to interview Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, and I'm just an idiot with a backwards hat and a fake mic. So those people take me seriously. And for the others that don't, that's fine. I'm not for them. But it goes back to what I was saying too. You know, when we're reaching out to people, you got to do something outside of the box, and you have to have humor, right? So I figure if I can make fun of myself right here, then that hopefully will come across as somebody that's not pretentious and somebody that's genuine. And, you know, it's whether it works or doesn't in the long run, you know, I mean, there's a million things that anybody could say about me that would attack my credibility. Holding a whisk is actually one of the least important things. That's my lack of credibility. I believe that everybody should have credibility just on the fact that they're a human being and they have the right to their opinions.
So, be honest. Nobody is listening here. Has there ever been an outfit that Ensemble wore that you didn't want to be seen in public with him?
I mean, not really. Anybody gets to dress however they want to dress. I don't know. Not really. I mean, he mostly wears black tees every day. He mostly will wear a black T-shirt every day.
But the USA Ensemble, like, do you know where he got that? Like
I believe that was a gift to him from one of the subscribers, and that's why he wore that. I could be wrong on that, but I believe someone gave that to him as a gift. Someone sent that to him.
I want to kind of glaze on Epstein because I was watching your live feed the other day, a week or so ago, with the breaking news on the arrest. Walk us through this individual. She was captured in New Hampshire, correct? Coincidentally. Walk us through what you know about the apprehension, the arrest, and who she is and why it's so important in this Epstein case.
Well, her name is Ghislaine Maxwell. She was literally Jeffrey Epstein's counterpart. And the reason it's so important is because these are the Jeffrey Epstein, who did not kill himself, and Ghislaine Maxwell are the two major progenitors, besides Leslie Wexner, of the largest child sex trafficking ring in the history of the United States that we know of. She's also the daughter of Robert Maxwell, who is Britain and England's, actually not Britain, he was a double agent supposedly. He's Israel's #1 most famous spy. And so what we have here is, and we have Jeffrey Epstein working with the FBI and CIA and the Mossad, right? So we have Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. This is why it's important, is because we told you on Demand the Truth years ago, not just Jeffrey Epstein, not just Ghislaine Maxwell. We named names, we said other people. We told you about this. We told you about the largest sex trafficking ring in modern U.S. history, if not in the world. The reason this is important is because Democrats, Republicans, Vatican, Hollywood, they're all involved. CIA, FBI, Bill Gates, Mossad, they're all involved. And it's a large scheme. And this is how and why they do things. As far as what happened to her in New Hampshire, we don't know, because we don't have any of the body cams. We don't have any of the drone footage. To the best of my understanding, when the FBI, who is the arresting party, makes an arrest, they recently changed it a couple years ago, I believe. I could be wrong. Do not take mugshots. So we don't have a mugshot. We don't have a video or a voice of her yet. So we don't honestly know what's going on with Ghislaine Maxwell. However, Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, and Leslie Wexner, who was the head of Victoria's Secret and Limited brands, financed this whole child sex trafficking ring. The reason it's important is because it involves Trump, Hillary, the Bidens, Vatican, Hollywood, all of them. Literally all of them. So that's the reason it's so important. And that's why I've been talking about it for so long. And because this is how they control everything, is through pedophilia.
Do you have any comments on the microchip in humans? I know it's big in Norway right now. It's pretty much an RFID chip that is being implanted into people's wrists in Norway. They are droves getting it. Thousands of people are getting it. They're loving getting it. It's a simple shot that's in the hand. I actually played it a few weeks ago, and
good.
And the joy of people getting it and being able to go to pretty much pay for a bus fare with their wrist, and pay for a train with their wrist, and pay for a coffee with their wrist, because everything's in their RFID chip. It's a little micrograin chip, like a dog's microchip. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's something that's effective? Do you think America should adapt that as well, and why?
Unfortunately, America has already adapted this. I've covered this on my channel twice because I thought it was so important. Anybody can look this up. I believe the article is from 2015. All you have to do is Google International Business Times, U.S. soldiers returning brain chips. And as far back as 2015, not Will, not the idiot with the fake mic, but the International Business Times has reported on the fact that U.S. soldiers were returning with brain chips, not microchips in their wrist, but chips in their brain. And they said it was to deal with emotions. Well, that's cool. Only problem is we don't even know what the hell emotions are. So it's something that we should absolutely not adopt. The people have been microchipped all across the world, and now Elon Musk, who just so happens to hang around with Jeffrey Epstein, who's involved in the largest child sex trafficking ring in human history, wants to now give you a Neuralink, which goes inside your brains and connects to your neurosynapses. So you may call me a neo-Luddite, but I am against microchipping in every form. There's been no real studies to say that it's actually an improvement in any way. It's just another situation of control. It's been something I've been talking about for literally years, and now it's here. There's just one of the things people like to call me crazy and say, hey, don't trust this guy with the whisk and the fake mic. But I've talked about microchipping, and it's come true. I've talked about geoengineering, and now it's all admitted. They have conferences. Bill Gates talks about dimming the sun. I told you that fluoride was harmful for you years before. Then afterwards, 2 Harvard studies come out and say the same thing. I've been at the forefront, but not because I'm smart or not because I'm anybody. It's just because I can read their own books. I read their own documents, and I listen to what they say in their own words, and I just tell people that. So a lot of people will call me crazy for a lot of things, but I mean, every single thing that I've talked about has come true.
Where are you with the... I'm trying to figure out which one I should get to with these conspiracy theories. We can go 6 hours. I really appreciate your time. Let me know when I'm taking, pretty much enough of it. What's your thoughts on the COVID-19 vaccine? Do you think that's going to be a thing? And do you think this COVID-19, pretty much, what's your summary of what's the blame for COVID-19? And do you think it's going to go away? And if so, what's your timeline and why?
Don't know when and if it'll go away. Have absolutely no timeline whatsoever. I'm not privy to any of these elite meetings, unfortunately. As far as COVID-19 in and of itself, it's a real game changer. I said when it happened, I'm an unflinching optimist. I've always considered myself an unflinching optimist, despite all the information that I delve into. And at first, when COVID happened and they shut things down for a couple of days, I was like, okay, well, this is weird. But then I think on the 3rd or 4th day, I did a video saying, this country is gone, totally gone, and we will never recover from this. Nothing will ever be the same. And then about a month later, they start talking about a new normal. This COVID is like a 9/11, in which really doesn't make a difference whether it was China or a lab in the United States who created it. It honestly, at this point, I mean, it does make a difference because we need to hold those responsible, or if it's just a natural occurrence. But if it is something that was let out, we obviously need to hold them responsible. But I think the thing bigger than COVID is the loss of our freedoms, right? So the fact that we can have a virus just take away all of our freedoms and shut down people's businesses, break up people's funerals and weddings overnight is just goes to show you how precious freedom really is. And that if we don't fight for freedom, we're never going to happen. We're never going to have it. They completely shut down all of our freedoms overnight. And even the World Health Organization, who have been caught giving false information and have to admit it afterwards, admit that because of the lockdowns due to COVID, normally 10 million people a year would starve to death. Well, now because of the shutdowns of COVID, an extra 10 to 20 million will starve to death. That's far more than anybody dying during COVID. And then we also had the nurse, Erin Marie, and I can't pronounce or remember her last name, but she's a veteran. She's been to hospitals in Iraq, and she is in the epicenter right now, like the mainstream news says over and over again, the #1 hospital for all of this in New York City. She has audio and video of them falsifying and lying and literally killing people on video. Killing people, saying, this is probably going to kill somebody. And you hear nurses and doctors saying, yeah. And then somebody tests for COVID, negative, negative. Oh, we'll say positive anyways, and we're going to stick a respirator down their throat. The medical industry is the #3 murderer of all people. You know, people say, oh, cops kill people, and they do. Last I checked, 1,009 per 365 days. It's multiple people a day. But they don't even come close to the medical industry. And that is one of the largest killers of all people. And it's also shown that it's killed our freedom, completely killed our Constitution. And we are not going to go back to the old normal. We're not going to even go back to the after 9/11 normal. Hopefully we get back to the pre-9/11 normal. But the only way that's going to happen is if people take nonviolent action immediately.
Now, do you wear a mask in public?
I only wear a mask if I'm asked to by a private business. And I'll tell you the reason why. According to the CDC itself, germs can travel coughing, sneezing, breathing up to 25 feet. So the 6 feet of social distancing doesn't make any sense. And then even if someone have germs in front of you, you're going to walk right into that. Also, masks are, and this is not according to me, this is according to the science that's out there. Masks are totally ineffectual unless you wear them with goggles and gloves and change them after every interaction. Also, I'm on the younger side. I have a healthy immune system, and if I did, I barely get sick in the first place. I also believe in building up my immune system, right? That's how we're going to get herd immunity in the first place. So that's the reason I only wear masks, and if I'm asked to by a private business or a public place, which I want to go into.
So you're on the narrative. So I'm just trying to figure out what a narrative you are. You believe this is a legitimate thing that has killed a lot of people, or do you think it's media hype?
I have no idea. And so people are going to maybe think that that's somewhat callous for me to say. Oh, well, how can Will say that this? I mean, for a long time we thought the Earth was flat. For a long time we thought cigarettes were good for you. We thought Agent Orange and GMOs were good for you for a long time. The history of science and humanity is figuring out we were wrong, really wrong, a lot of times. I know I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I cannot tell you anything about viruses or bacteria. But you know, George Carlin said, you know, when I grew up, everyone was getting polio, except for me and my buddies, because we swam in the Hudson River and we gave our white blood cells some immunity. So this could be the worst pandemic we've faced in a long time, or it could be something we're misunderstanding, or it could be something completely fraudulent, or a combination of all three. I don't know, because I very rarely will say things with 100% certainty. Because when my only sources of information are warmongers who cover for pedophiles and have been caught multiple times lying, I don't have good information to go off.
I want to know your goal with auditing. What's your 1-year goal with auditing? Where do you want to be in a year with your, with your work you do with auditing?
I don't think about auditing. I don't think auditing as a separate thing. I put auditing in the catalog of everything that I do. I do so many different things that, and like I said earlier, is it best to focus on one thing and really hammer at it, or is it better to cover a multitude of topics and kind of be a jack of all trades? I don't know. At this point, I'm still being a jack of all trades. But if I was to set a goal for auditing in a year, not just myself, but everybody, I hope that public officials would be more comfortable with being recorded and see the fact that, it's not really my camera that they need to worry about. It's the illegal, unconstitutional NSA's cameras that they need to worry about. That would be my goal.
So let's play a game. All right. In my opinion, this is what this game's going to be. That way we kind of get out of trouble and shit by saying this. In my opinion, I'm going to ask you, who do you think killed the following people? And if you can say, in my opinion, that'd be great.
Sure.
Who do you think killed Martin Luther King?
In my opinion, I believe it was the House of Representatives in the mid-'80s. They determined that Martin Luther King was killed by our own government, as well as we have the released documents of COINTELPRO showing that they were going after him. So in my opinion, the U.S. government, because of the findings of the U.S. House of Representatives and also the released FBI COINTEL documents, that Martin Luther King Jr. was killed by our own government.
Who do you think killed JFK?
Don't know, but I know he pissed off a lot of people. And could be the military-industrial complex, could be the Federal Reserve, could be the CIA. He didn't like the Federal Reserve. He said that he would shatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. And that's not a good remedy. I mean, hey, I'm going to say it right here, too, just like JFK. I want to shatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and the Federal Reserve, so come get me. So JFK, because he was a man with a backbone, made several enemies in high-power places. Could have been many of those people or a combination of the many, but definitely what we would call today the deep state killed JFK, in my opinion.
Who do you think killed RFK?
I think it was the girl with the flower dress, according to the best. No, sorry. The CIA. I believe that the CIA killed RFK. There was also a recent BBC report that, and they prove without a shadow of a doubt that there were 5 CIA agents at RFK's final speech before he was killed. Now, anybody that doesn't know anything about the CIA is inherently unconstitutional, inherently illegal, and they are also forbidden from operating domestically. That's where the FBI, even though they're unconstitutional and illegal, are supposed to operate. So the CIA is forbidden from operating domestically, yet somehow they had 5 agents there when RFK was killed. Sirhan did absolutely not kill RFK. I believe if we're going with Occam's razor, we're going to have to say, in my opinion, the CIA.
Who do you think killed Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't know for sure that Jeffrey Epstein is killed. As a matter of fact, the Mossad, they're experts at extraction. And like I said, and like we discussed earlier, the cameras went out and like over 22 anomalies occurred that day. So he may not even be dead. But if he was killed, we have a number of people. It could be any number of people in Hollywood. It could be Trump. It could be the Clintons. It could be the people in the Vatican. It could be Kevin Spacey. It could be agents of the Mossad. We don't know because we don't have any evidence whatsoever to go upon, unfortunately.
Who do you think killed Osama bin Laden, and when did he die? That's the biggest question. When did he die?
I can't tell you that, but what I can tell you is that we have 3- and 4-star military generals saying that Osama bin Laden died in 2002. He was in dialysis at the time. We also, I've covered this on my channel before, the article is Spy Talk, and they talks about, yet again, the CIA fabricating Osama bin Laden videos, admitting to it. We don't know. I definitely don't buy immediately the story, although I have an open mind, and if I was presented with more information, the official U.S. government story, because, oh yeah, we finally found the most highly prized target in modern U.S. history, and we just threw him in the ocean. But yet we had video of Saddam Hussein, which, talking about the CIA, helped install Saddam Hussein in the first place in his bath party back in the 1950s. So I think we're seeing a common thread here, and it's the CIA.
In your opinion, what is your opinion of Al-Qaeda? Do you think that is a legitimate terrorist organization right now?
Yes, absolutely.
What was the start of Al-Qaeda?
Well, there have been differing reports on Al-Qaeda, but one of the things, and this is all mainstream history here, and I could get into a more conspiratorial avenue, but I'll go with the best evidence that's mainstream history. Jimmy Carter and Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was also one of the founders of the Trilateral Commission and Council on Foreign Relations, there's videos of all this, and they're basically, arming rebels for a long time. And then fast forward to Ronald Reagan, he had Al-Qaeda at the White House when they were fighting the Russians in the 70s and the 80s, called them freedom fighters. So Al-Qaeda probably was, and I'm no expert, I don't claim to know anything here. Al-Qaeda, in my opinion, was probably something that was an organic group, but like many things, gets co-opted by the U.S. military. As a matter of fact, I've done an entire post on Facebook from several years ago where I cite over 20 mainstream legitimate sources that show that the U.S. is working with Al-Qaeda and has been since the late 70s to this very day. So I go on, and I'm actually going to do, I'm glad you brought this up, I'm going to do a whole video. I'm going to look for that Facebook post where I go through literally like 20, 30 credible mainstream articles that show that the U.S. is bare minimum facilitating Al-Qaeda to this day.
Who killed, in your opinion, Lee Harvey Oswald?
I mean, probably Jack Ruby. I don't know. But, I mean, if I was to guess, and the underlying thread here is the CIA. These are the people, you know, and if you look at the people that are involved in the foundation of the CIA, it's, you know, the Dulles boys, it's the Bush boys, it's the Rothschild front agents. It's, I mean, literally, I mean, Operation Paperclip, we put a bunch of Nazis in there too. So I think the thing is, the CIA is, the problem is the CIA, we don't know how much they get paid. We don't know what their budget is. They're accountable to absolutely nobody. So we don't know. I mean, we do know that they poisoned milk to kids in Cuba. We do know that they assassinated democratically elected foreign heads of state. We do know that they fabricated stories. And when I've had CIA whistleblower John Kiriakou, who inspired Edward Snowden, is an award-winning author and exposed torture on my show, he talked about the fact that, you know, they may also be involved with child trafficking. So I think CIA is going to be one of the major people that should be in the forefront of any of these questions here.
Is it true you were on the Epstein jet?
Yeah, I was on the Epstein jet, and I said, Epstein, stop this jet right now. Stop it. No, absolutely not. I hate flying in general, let alone I'm not going to get on a jet with Jeffrey Epstein. No.
No, I'm saying not with him, but after him recently, since the whole thing happened with him.
Have I ever been on I've never been on a private jet ever. I did, however, a week or less before Ghislaine Maxwell was found, I did track, I believe, her to Newport, Rhode Island, although I don't have proof, on Leslie Wexner's, who's, again, the guy that financed Jeffrey Epstein in the largest sex ring in human history. He was a guy that headed up Victoria's Secret and Limited Brands. His mega yacht, Limitless, and I did go and approach that yacht and try to see if I can get a word or try to get on board and see if I could see Ghislaine or Leslie Wexner there. But I've never in my life been on a private jet.
We have a great question in the chat about Gary Webb and the CIA. What's your take on that whole story? How involved is the CIA? The narrative right now is it was a suicide. What are your thoughts on that?
Gary did not look like a person in what I've seen and read that looked like he was going to commit suicide whatsoever. He exposed the fact that the CIA was running drugs in and blaming it on the African American community. Oh man, rest in peace to Gary Webb. And now they have, I believe there's a Hollywood movie about him now called Kill the Messenger. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, he's been totally vindicated. People like myself have been saying this for years, even after Gary died, and nobody believed us. But yeah, Gary Webb, I do not believe he killed himself, and I believe he's a true amazing man and a true hero. To, you know, because it takes such courage to not go along with everybody and do what's the tough right decision. And Gary Webb is that's why I don't care. Like, if they want to come kill me like Gary Webb or somebody, good. At least I'm trying my best. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Gary Webb is such a hero.
Are you familiar with the Holtzclaw case going on in Oklahoma that went down, the Daniel Holtzclaw case?
No.
I want to challenge you to look into that.
All right. Do me a favor and send me a link or at least a name to Google after the show, and I'll take a look.
I am very passionate on it. It's pretty much in Oklahoma. It's a police officer who has been wrongly accused, who has been locked away in jail for the rest of his life, who was accused of rape over contact DNA, which you and I both know is a very controversial topic. It's easy to get contact DNA on you. If you give me that whisk and I then touch my belt buckle, your DNA is on my belt buckle.
Yep.
That doesn't mean you raped me.
Well, not even just to that cop, but I mean, it's come out in mainstream news, not just Crazy Will. The FBI falsified DNA evidence for over a decade to put innocent people in jail, whether you're a cop or not. There are so many people that are sitting in jail right now, whether you're a police officer or not, for crimes they didn't commit. It kills me. It literally, there's nothing worse than sending somebody to prison. There's really nothing worse than that, especially if they haven't done anything. I've interviewed somebody that was in jail for 27 years for crimes he didn't commit. 27 years for crimes he didn't commit. 74% of people that are behind bars right now are nonviolent drug offenders. Hillary Clinton and the Bushes are running free, but yet Sirhan has been in jail for over 50 fucking years now. Julian Assange is in prison right now. Right? We got political prisoners, white, black. We got cops in jail right now for crimes they didn't commit. We have a terrible, terrible justice system, and it's partly because of the cops, partly because of the judges, partly because of the lawyers, partly because of the legislators, but it's mostly because of people like me and others who haven't gotten involved strongly enough. We need to look into jury nullification, and we need to look into really looking at the way we do things, because it's not rehabilitating anybody, and stealing one's freedom is cruel and unusual punishment to me.
His situation hurts because the DA, corruption, they had a behind doors closed meeting, which is illegal. A lot of protests were going on. The birth of BLM was during this in Oklahoma.
So you're saying it's a witch hunt and he was put away to basically...
Exactly.
Gotcha.
They describe the person as a tall black male, has a short black male. He is a tall white male, very built, very distinguished. The people who put him away have been arrested dozens of times. Rap sheets galore, proven lying, audio tapes prove it. There was an unknown DNA. He got 30 years in jail for the unknown DNA. It's been revealed that the investigator touched the pants without a glove, handled it without a glove, put it in a bag without a glove. His DNA is on those pants. He got 30 plus years in jail for that alone. It's disgusting. It's deplorable. One of the people who were I'm using the air quotes here, witnesses, got arrested recently for multiple felonies. And guess what? Got away. No bail. I mean, just literally just gets away with every arrest. They get slapped on the wrist. It's like there's a deal made for life that these people can get away with whatever because the witch hunt was accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes to everything that you're telling me, and like I said at the beginning, I'm not familiar with this case, just goes to highlight all the things I've been talking about for many years about the problems with the quote-unquote justice system that we have right now. There is no justice system right now when Hillary Clinton is walking around this planet free. Henry Kissinger is just hanging out. You know, Leslie Wexner, the guy that financed Jeffrey Epstein's sex ring, he's on a freaking mega yacht right now. But if you have weed on you, you're going to jail. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's just one of 1,000 stories that I've heard over my life. People from all walks of life, right? Some have been doctors, some have been lawyers, some have cops, some just regular people. We have a severely flawed justice system here. And that's why we need to go ahead and take the call when we're called for jury duty. That means we need to show up to these courthouses and talk to people about jury nullification and what that is and how powerful a tool that is. And we also need to learn about these judges and these lawyers and, you know, call them out when it's due. I mean, this justice system is completely flawed. And, you know, unless we have a long, drawn-out, nuanced conversation as a society and take some nonviolent steps towards it, unfortunately, nothing is going to change.
We have a question in the chat about Phil Schneider. Phil Schneider. Can you briefly talk about Phil's story and why it's an interesting one?
Don't know who that is.
Phil Schneider. Okay. The
Who's Phil
controversial.
Schneider?
It's a story in 1979. Phil Schneider was employed by Morrison Knudsen, who had him building addition to the deep underground base in Dulce, New Mexico.
Oh, wow, that sounds very interesting. Yeah, that's another thing that I'm going to have to look up after the fact. I'm sorry, but I'm not aware of that. That's very interesting, though.
And he made a book about what is reptilians and the battle for humanity, the Phil Schneider Chronicles.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess as far as reptilians are concerned, again, I mean, I can't even tell you what happened on the Las Vegas shooting, let alone that there's interdimensional reptoids that are secretly running the planet. And even if I had 100% smoking gun proof, which I do not, and haven't even looked into that, I'm still trying to get people to admit that that we have corrupt politicians, illegal wars going on. So I have no information on the reptoids or that. However, as far as UFOs go, the U.S. government is now releasing more and more information about UFOs. The Vatican came out within the last year or two and said, yes, there are UFOs and aliens from other planets. Hey, are there such thing as reptoids shooting around in saucers? Maybe. Maybe they're biblical demons, or maybe they're just secret test stuff from our own U.S. government and other governments. So I have no idea about the reptoids.
I got a lot of people, when I announced you're on, they wanted to know about the underground tunnels. What do they mean by that? And what is your take on it?
So I guess there's different people talking about different things. Below Paris, below New York City, below Washington, D.C., there are underground tunnels. And nobody really uses them anymore. Some people have speculated that they could potentially ship narcotics or weaponry or even potentially humans through those tunnels. And then there's people that say that FEMA has these great tunnels that go from like freaking New Hampshire to Las Vegas or anything like that. What I can say is there are real tunnels under Paris, under New York City, under Washington, D.C. Human beings have been building upon, especially in Europe, upon older structures for millennia. So we know there's underground tunnels. I have yet to see any evidence that FEMA and these massive tunnels are, these FEMA tunnels anyways, or these ones that they're using are real, and even if they are real, that they're actually doing something with it. Because I've never seen one, I've never been to one, I've never seen anybody besides people talking on YouTube about it. But, I mean, we also do have the fact that the U.S. military has underground bunkers for sure. We know that. It's not something that's a matter of debate. So, I don't know. I couldn't tell you anything about the bunkers. The tunnels. I am sure that the U.S. government has at least some tunnels, and I am aware that there are tunnels already underneath a number of major cities. However, I've unfortunately never went with my childhood heroes, the Ninja Turtles, down into those sewers or tunnels to investigate myself. However, if there is somebody viewing this out here that has a location that's the entrance to one of these tunnels, I'll most assuredly go over there, start digging around, do a First Amendment audit and video, and take a look into it.
If anybody in the chat, like Sassy Assassin, he may know that address to find where that underground, the tunnel is. Let's go back to the Epstein case. What are the big names that are implicated with actual proof? Throw the big names out there, and what are the accusations against them?
So that's part of the problem. We don't have proof. We do have proof. I mean, not that we don't have proof, but we're working with the information that we have at hand. People like myself in the conspiracy, Pedogate, Pizzagate research have been talking about a number of these people for quite a long time. The people involved in this ring, a lot of people that you talk about, they were on Epstein's flight log. So we know Bill Clinton ditched Secret Service 22 times to fly with Jeffrey Epstein. We do have a number of people like Kevin Spacey, Ira Magaziner here in Rhode Island, Chris Tucker, the names go on and on for all these people on the flight list, and anybody can just Google Epstein flight log list, and they can see it there in the handwriting. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they did anything. But it also could mean something. That just means it warrants further investigation. There are some other people involved in this ring, which are also 100% proven to be involved with this. But it's important to bear in mind that most people don't realize when we're talking about the Epstein flight log, we're only talking about one partial log from one pilot. Epstein had a number of pilots and a number of flight logs throughout all of these years that he was flying around on his private jet. But we do have the WikiLeaks, which talk about not only in code, but they also talk about the fact that they were going to Uber service children 7, 9, and 11 over into a heated pool, so there'd be enjoyment for people. We do also know the connections to Epstein, and so I'll just briefly give the connections to Epstein and Trump and Epstein and the Clintons, so I'm not accused of being a partisan hat. Epstein and the Clintons, you have Bill and Hillary Clinton, not only on the flight logs themselves, but highly connected. Also, don't forget, Epstein was connected to Brown, MIT, gave Harvard $6.5 million. It's literally connected into every facet of our entire life. This is what they do. They blackmail people with pedophilia, and then they get them to do whatever the hell they want, right? So we have the Clintons' connections to Epstein there, and then you have the Clintons' connections to the Podestas, who have connections to Dennis Hassert, who was a convicted pedophile, former Republican Speaker of the House. They have connections to the Nexium cult, convicted child traffickers. They have connections to John of God, convicted child traffickers. They have connections also to Laura Silsby, who got caught trafficking 33 children out of Haiti. But then you have Donald Trump, who wishes Ghislaine Maxwell well. Donald Trump had Alexander Acosta become the labor secretary. Alexander Acosta was famous for giving Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart deal so he can come and go from prison and still rape people. And so for some reason, Donald Trump thought that would qualify him for being labor secretary. Donald Trump also put Treasury Secretary Mnuchin in, who literally partied with Jeffrey Epstein right after he got out of jail the first time. Also, Wilbur Ross is on these flight logs, and he's also a Bilderberg member and a member of the Rothschild banking establishment on record, hanging out. Then you have Ken Starr as well involved with Trump and the Clintons with Epstein. You also have Attorney General William Barr, who had to recuse himself officially from the Epstein investigation because he was involved with Epstein before, who absolutely said, yeah, Epstein did kill himself. And then to sprinkle it all off, you have Alan Dershowitz, who was Jeffrey Epstein's buddy and only got a massage with my underwear on, who was publicly lobbied for lowering the age of consent to 14 years old. And when he was called out for that, they were like, no, he's like, no, yeah, we should lower it to 14 years of age. And those are just only the two main political connections right there with Donald Trump and the Clintons. But like I said, it goes into every science, academia, Hollywood, the media. It's completely replete. And that's why these intelligence agencies like the CIA and FBI do this.
Now, what did you take on the, what is it called again? What, the Mandela Effect? The Mandela Effect.
I did look into the Mandela Effect one day. I shouldn't say I looked into it, but someone sent me a couple of videos about that. And, I mean, even if I knew the Mandela Effect was real, how do I know? Because they could have just changed it on me right now. That seems a little more on the out there side, and I like to go with anything I can't. I don't like to really speak about anything that I can't prove. But I guess I would say, when the Large Hadron Collider and others are smashing particles together, and they themselves even admit that they could create a black hole that would engulf the Earth, who knows what type of potential ramifications that could have on the past. And Einstein himself did a lot for time travel in his general theory of relativity. So, I mean, time travel and changing the past may be something that's possible, but I don't know.
Are you aware of the Saudi prince with a journalist story?
Talking about Khashoggi?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you able to briefly give a rundown of what happened and what you think happened? And what are your thoughts on the wrestling, how they were there right in the middle of that and kind of moved on?
Well, this is an interesting point that you're not going to hear from very many people. So again, this ties into Jeffrey Epstein, the Bushes, and the Clintons, right? So people act like the U.S. government has a stern thing against terrorists. Well, if that's so, why do we give the Saudis so much money? Why are the Bushes and the royal family of the Saudis like this? And it's interesting because I was talking about these mega yachts that these folks travel upon, and I forget which specific yacht. It was either the Lady Ghislaine or the Limitless, but and Donald Trump is actually on the Letterman show, I think, discussing this, that he bought a yacht from Khashoggi, who's involved in all of this. He bought a yacht that used to be Khashoggi's yacht. So it's what you see here happening on the world stage is you see the ultra elite people, and people think that they're different from one another. People think that you couldn't be more diametrically opposed than the Bushes and the Saudi royal house, but they're all hanging out with each other. They're all related. They all have their same pedophilic connections, and they all have their same mega yachts going on. So unfortunately, with the story of Khashoggi, we don't really know what to believe, what's going on here. And you have also, this is another important thing for people to realize, not only have CNN, Fox, all these people been caught fabricating and totally lying, not only wars, but stories out of thin air, but also Operation Mockingbird, which is a declassified CIA document, shows that the CIA spent over $1 billion worth of that money, today's money in the 60s, to infiltrate all types of media. And then you also, to this very day, you have 5 or 6 corporations controlling everything that you see on TV, and they're also members of the Bilderberg Group, and almost to a T, all of their heads are members of the Council on Foreign Relations.
What's your opinion on the Barry Seal situation? You know, that's one of the first things that opened my eyes up to conspiracies is, wow, it's been proven that Clinton sold drugs, has the governor of Arkansas. If that happened today, he'd be in jail.
I disagree that he would be in jail. There's a double standard. There's a double standard. I mean, I wish he would be in jail for doing that.
Should be.
But he wouldn't. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm not a fan of Trump or Clinton or any of these people. I think that they do some good things and some bad things, but I'm definitely not a bandwagon follower. But as much as I hate the two-party paradigm, I mean, this is kind of, well, first of all, Barry Seal and all the people, I mean, just anybody needs to Google the Clinton body count. If you're not familiar with what's going on, even that's shadow banned. Take a look at all the people that have been closely associated to the Clintons, not counting Jeffrey Epstein, who have died in mysterious circumstances. I mean, it's just crazy. And even if Bill Clinton wasn't involved in drug trafficking in Mena, Arkansas, which I believe he was most assuredly doing it as the head of state for the United States, overseeing the CIA and what was going on in the pre-Afghanistan days when we were still bothering, and when we were first getting into all of that. But talking about the double standard, I mean, Trump says things that can be considered racist or are racist, or considered sexist or are sexist, and it's the end of the world. Everybody hates him. Yet nobody remembers when Hillary Clinton said, and again, I don't like any of these guys, but she was being interviewed and someone asked her about Eric Holder or somebody else, and she was like, yeah, they all look alike. Nobody batted an eye. Nobody batted an eye when Hillary Clinton went on and said, on African American morning show, and they said, name one thing you always keep on your purse. She said, hot sauce. And then they said, you're just going to sound like you're pandering to black people, right? And she's like, yeah, is it working? So, I mean, there's a double standard here. So it would be nice if Bill Clinton was arrested for his crimes against humanity. But unfortunately, I don't see that happening anytime soon, unless people at home get involved nonviolently and take action.
You've probably got this a lot on your page, and it's a good thing to publicly address it with Ansamo, with his background, his record. There's a lot of guilt by association when you hang out with somebody who has a checkered past. What is your response to the people who go after you because of something he has done in his past? Could be allegedly, I'm not saying could be allegedly doing it still, but clearly has the record of some really serious charges being levied against him. and there's that guilt by association and saying that
Sure. Yeah.
why are you
So-
associating yourself with someone with
All
that?
right, let me give you a few answers. Well, one is I've actually done a little digging into that situation myself. I'm not going to speak about that here because I think that's not really the place for that. I don't believe the official story. As you just talked about, cops get locked up for total BS all the time. I've interviewed people that are in jail for 27 years, didn't commit crimes. We already talked about the flaws in the justice system, so that's one. Two, also, you know, like I talked about earlier, Saul in the Bible was a murderer of Christians and became one of the best Christians. And then three, if you're talking about who I associate with, you know, people say you are who you're friends with. And I would say, well, are you calling Jesus a prostitute? Because Jesus was hanging out with the worst people in society. And I don't think I'm any better or any worse than any other person out there. And if anybody comes along, almost anybody comes along, and they want to help me in my activism, if they want to amplify what I do, if they want to help me get my message out to other people, well, I gladly welcome you.
I want to see your top five. Who are the top five biggest villains in this world right now, in your opinion?
That's a good question.
They don't have to be 5-1. You can just give me five of the top villains right now that you think are problems in this.
Sure.
And why?
I would think that the Bilderberg Group is probably number one. They're an unaccountable illegal group started legitimately by royal families and Nazis, and people still meet every single day. And they have people called me crazy when I was first exposing the Bilderberg Group. Now they have an actual website and admit that they're real. When I first talked about the Bilderberg Group, people thought I was crazy and making it up, but now they've had to admit it's true. And it's the highest on the totem pole power structure that is available to public knowledge. And it's a group of Nazis and world elite that meet every single year, with the exception of this year, and I believe in once in 1979, to literally plot and formulate world events. And Democrats, Republicans, heads of massive corporations, Federal Reserve banks, etc., meet there. And they are not planning good things for the Democrats or the Republicans. They don't like us very much. I also would say number two would probably be Bill Gates. Bill Gates exerts an incredibly disgusting amount of power on the world sphere. But I guess maybe taking over number two to number three would be the media. The media are the enablers of the Bilderberg Group, of the Council on Foreign Relations, of the world's power elite. Taking a look at the Rothschild family, David de Rothschild, Linda Rothschild, for sure, the Bush family, the Clinton family, people like that. There's so many people out there, but if I had to name one group of people, it would most assuredly be the Bilderberg Group.
Is there a 2, 3, 4, and 5?
It's like I said. It's kind of like. If you're really to diagnose some of these power centers, it's tough to say. The Queen of England, she's up there. I don't know why I forgot about her. The Vatican, they're up there too. So it's tough to say. It's not even necessarily the person; it's the power structure that allows that person to exert such influence.
So, in your opinion, is Epstein alive? Yes or no?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you yes or no. I can tell you without a doubt he did not kill himself. According to Michael Braden, who is a famous person that looks at autopsies, and then I recently had on my show a couple months ago, America's #1 death investigator. He's a distinguished scholar of applied forensics at Jackson State. He's been all over Fox and CNN, Joseph Scott Morgan, and he goes through, he says basically Epstein could have killed himself, but it would have taken anomaly upon anomaly upon anomaly upon bizarre random things. So I don't know if he's alive or not, but we don't have any evidence that he truly is dead independently. And when we have over 22 things conspiring nearly simultaneously, and then the cameras go out, I have no way of telling whether the intelligence agencies, the FBI, CIA, and Mossad that he worked for, whisked him away when the cameras went out, or whether somebody said from, these countless people that would like to see him dead, killed him.
We get a question about CERN. Actually, we've got a bunch of questions about CERN.
Yeah,
I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah, so CERN is actually, I've discussed that earlier. I mean, it's a huge place in Europe, and they're smashing particles together, which they, in their own words, admit could cause a black hole, which could engulf the Earth, and they're going to do it anyways, and they've continued to do it anyways. But then there's also been some pretty bizarre, when they had the opening of CERN, they had some pretty bizarre events going on. It could just be art, but then there's some weird stuff with art too, as well. If you're familiar with spirit cooking or Marina Abramovich or anything of that nature. So this is just another case, like they did this in World War II, right? The people that were messing with the atom bomb, they were like, well, we think that this could potentially destroy the Earth's atmosphere and kill everybody on the planet, but we're going to try it anyways. So CERN is like, we could cause a massive black hole that would destroy everybody on this planet, but we're going to try it anyways. I think it's less about CERN and more about accountability and the fact that we've let this super elite basically do whatever we want, and we're not even a part of this conversation.
Do you have a prediction about the election?
I predict that people will learn about the non-aggression principle, and people will learn about Joe Jorgensen and see that you don't have to choose between a pedophile with dementia like Joe Biden, and you don't have to choose between a war criminal pedophile protector who is unconstitutional and hates gun rights like Donald Trump. I also have a prediction, which is a crazy prediction. I never make predictions, but you know what, El Sancho, you're getting it first right here. At least publicly. I have a prediction that if there are debates, they will be severely limited. Because as much as I don't like choosing the lesser of two evils, there is no way possible that Joe Biden could ever compete with Donald Trump in a debate. So I am predicting that if there are debates somehow, they're going to be very controlled. Biden's probably going to have the questions beforehand, and it might not even be in person because, what do you think? Because I definitely don't see Joe Biden beating Trump in a debate. And as far as elections go, we've seen it's actually been adjudicated and videotaped in court that they flip votes, they steal votes, going back to the first Bush election and the Diebold voting machines. And now everything's on these computer systems, which are run by George Soros and stuff. So, hey, they could have Biden win and steal the election. But I've been to Joe Biden rallies a number of times. He can't sell out, pardon me, got the hiccups. He can't sell out a high school gym. I've witnessed this a number of times. And I've also went to a number of Trump rallies, and he has literally thousands of people outside of his rallies. And going back to 2016, Donald Trump was 99% projected loser the day of. They all said Hillary was going to win, and Donald Trump won. So if Donald Trump loses this election, it's only because it was probably stolen from him, or he's also part of the same cabal, and they're allowing him to win. Ideally, it would be nice if people said, we don't need government in the first place, and why don't we vote for Joe Jorgensen, who is a lot better than choosing the lesser of two evils, because whenever you choose the lesser of two evils, you end up with evil.
What about Jesse Ventura? I was behind.
Well, why don't you tell me about Jesse Ventura? He's been a Navy SEAL. He's been a wrestler. He's been a governor.
You do a better Jesse Ventura than an ensemble. I kicked your ass, by the way, in that poll, by the way.
Did you? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to work on my Enrique.
It was an 80% landslide.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. So you're going to have to come onto my show, and we're going to have the polls there, and we'll even out the skiers. I'll come with a better impersonation.
The impression can be the same no matter if it's home field advantage or away.
All right. We'll have to see.
Talent's talent. Let's ask you a couple more questions, and we'll let you go because it's been a while. I can go 6 hours with you, my guy.
I could too, but I need but I'll answer a few more questions. because you're being very friendly with me. This is not an antagonizing thing. I think you're at least being respectful if you're not genuinely curious about my about me in general. But I do have to take a pee and grab another Guinness. But I will stay on for a few more questions. And if you would be kind enough to invite me on, like I said, anybody watching, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, you want to debate me, discuss something with me, the challenge is there. The hand is there. You don't have to touch it due to COVID, but WilliamTurbitt@gmail.com, WilliamTurbitt@gmail.com. Reach out to me, anybody. I'll always have a discussion with you. Even if you're a pedophile and a neo-Nazi, I'll tell you why you're wrong, and I think you should change sides.
Now, one question, and then I'm gonna let you have a break to go pee, and then we'll wrap it up.
No, I can. We can wrap it up, and I can pee. I can hold it. You can ask your questions.
It seemed like on your live stream you were a little hesitant on what to expect tonight, and I thought we talked enough prior, and you're the only one that I've interviewed that I talked more before it was scheduled. Now, did you have reservations on this interview and what to expect?
Well, somewhat. I mean, because I didn't know who you were. Somebody was telling me you're involved with Turtle Boy in Bristol, and those people hate me. So, I mean, I don't have any reservations because, I mean, you saw I didn't agree with Turtle Boy in Bristol, but I still went there to debate them, right? So I don't have any reservations because I know what I believe in. I'm truly doing what I'm doing from my heart. I'm not pretending to be anybody. So you can ask me all the tough questions in the world, and you've asked me a couple tough questions, and I appreciate that. I don't want you to throw me any softballs. So I didn't have any reservations, but when you've been set up and lied about before and stuff, you look over your shoulder.
Understandable on that.
I mean, there's certain people out there that just do videos about me and make articles about me all the time. And it kind of borders on obsession. And so it's like, really, like, I'm the biggest problem in the world, not all the stuff that we discussed tonight, not cops being locked up, not Julian Assange being locked up, not black people being locked up, not these illegal wars. Will Turbitt, that's the biggest problem in the world. So, and even then, I'm not mad at those people because, hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? I mean, that's what's interesting to you, or maybe you've had some problems and you're projecting. I don't know.
So, rapid fire, will COVID disappear after the election?
I'm going to say no, and here's why. It's just because whether it's COVID or not, the government is always going to look for something to infringe your rights. And the government has seen right now that at the drop of a dime, they can take all of your rights away. I don't think they're going to throw away that power that easily.
Now, I have to research any questions from Wilma Dickfit. I apologize ahead of time, Wilma Dickfit, but I want to make sure you're not trolling me. So I have to Google whatever you're asking me to make sure.
All right, I just read that question. I don't know who Ryan Singleton is, but spirit cooking is something that is real. It is admitted by Marina Abramovich. It's also in the WikiLeaks emails given to us by imprisoned Julian Assange, who say what you guys want about WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks has never been forced to redact a story in over 11 years. You can't say that about Fox. You can't say that about CNN. You can't say that about Young Turks. You can't say that about InfoWars. They brought you the spirit cooking, and Marina Abramovich had an Ask Me Anything where she talks about some of it's art and some of what she does is black, basically occult magic. So spirit cooking is most assuredly a real disgusting thing that involves urine, semen, breast milk, and blood. I cannot speak to Singh because I don't know who it is. If you, as you guys can tell, I'm very green on a lot of this information. I don't know everything in the world, not even close. So if you guys want to reach out to me, I'd be more than glad to look down any rabbit holes, WilliamTurbitt@gmail.com.
He's a male model, essentially. In 2013, he was found pretty much. He was driving to Los Angeles from Las Vegas when his car broke down, and they spotted him walking on the highway. No organs, missing organs on the side of the highway. Can you give me your top 3 conspiracy theories that you get sick of hearing about that have been debunked?
Whew. Yeah, that's a good question. I would say the official 9/11 story. I'm sick of hearing the official 9/11 story. That is a conspiracy. That conspiracy theory is that 19 Muslim hijackers with box cutters took down NORAD, the NSA, the FBI, CIA, and Pentagon simultaneously. So I'm sick and tired of that conspiracy theory and hearing that that's some kind of truth. What other conspiracy theories am I sick of hearing? I guess I can't give you the top 3, but I think in general people should focus on. Okay, so I'll give you a 2, which should take the place of all the other ones too. It's a good example, the flat Earth, right? I get some people come into my chat, oh, the flat Earth, the flat Earth. I don't give a fuck if the Earth is flat or a rhombus or a square. I honestly don't care, because the shape of the Earth doesn't make a difference if we still have child trafficking. If the Earth is a spheroid, we still have child trafficking. If the Earth is flat, we still have child trafficking, illegal wars, the Bilderberg Group, genetically modified food, right? So I'm sick and tired of the flat Earth and theory, and not that it's not true, but I think, people spending their time researching the flat Earth, it could be true. It could be, and reptoids could be true too. I'm not saying that they're not true, but I think, can we focus on what really matters first and then get to the rest of that? For conspiracy theories, anything you hear out of the mainstream news of the U.S. government is going to be a conspiracy theory too. And people called me crazy for years and years and years and years and years, and called me a conspiracy theorist. And then they said, "Oh, there's Russian collusion." What is collusion? It's the same exact damn thing as conspiracy.
So when Will Turbitt wakes up, grabs his coffee, what pops in his head first? Doing a story on activism, an investigative story, or doing an audit?
I mean, I would say more activism or more sharing knowledge. Audits sometimes just happen, kind of sporadically. Although there are some times where, like a particular police officer will do something particularly heinous or particularly unconstitutional, and then I'm like, all right, we need to call this out. I recently saw a Lincoln, Rhode Island police officer push an individual who had a young infant in their hand, and I was like, yeah, that guy needs an audit. That guy needs an audit right there. So I guess it just depends. I mean, my life is full of righteous indignation all day, every day. But I would say that, I'm first somebody that's an activist or an advocate, and then one of my ways of being an activist or an advocate is auditing. But it's just one of the many things. I wouldn't put it near the top.
I'm in a similar position with this channel because there's multiple things I want to cover. I've had CC Unit on. I've had the Predator, the Poachers. I've had Toronto Predator Poachers, multiple predator groups. There's a big community there with that movement. Auditing. I interviewed a porn star. I even told you.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated that there's 24 hours a day. What's your opinion on that?
Meaning you don't have enough time to do what you want to do?
To touch on everything on one.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's why we need people to get involved out there, because you and I possibly couldn't touch on everything that's going on out there. And, people say, well, why don't you cover this? Oh, you don't know about Phil Schneider. Why? I know. I spend all my free freaking time doing this stuff, and I still can't learn everything. That's why we need you guys to get involved. Yeah, unfortunately, there's not enough hours in the day. I have so many books I want to read. There's so many things that I want to learn. There's so many things that I want to do. I wish I had $1 billion so I could jump in an RV, fill it up with gas, and go confront every single person, go investigate everything, go uncover every pedophile, fight for all the injustices out there. But you're right. There's only 24 hours in a day, and that's why people can't rely on me, can't rely on you. They have to take nonviolent action into their own hands and do things, because all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men and women to do nothing.
I got a couple questions about college education background. I am open about, I got a high school diploma, and that's it. And I don't think that makes you, dumb or not as intelligent as you should be. What is your background when it comes to college education, or what?
Yeah, I barely graduated out of high school. I bunked like 60 days my senior year at Mount Pleasant High School. I was kind of a punk. I was class time most unpredictable. Then I took a couple semesters of CCRI and was disillusioned with the whole idea, and then I left. Since then, then a few years later, I started waking up, and I've done a tremendous amount of learning online and trying to learn things. But as far as professional academia is concerned, I left after a couple semesters of community college.
Are you currently involved in a story, and what is coming up with the audit that's coming up?
Am I currently involved with the story? And what was the last part you said? You kind of broke up there.
I want to know what story you're currently involved with that you're going to be dropping soon, and do you have any audits that you are going to be posting in the next couple days?
I have no audits set to be posted in the next couple days. I am going to start. For a while, I was releasing videos twice a day, and then I went down to once a day, and I felt like people weren't seeing enough of the videos, so I would leave it up for more time. I'm going to be releasing new videos every single day, whether audits or not, God willing. Just because there's so much information to cover. And what was the first part again?
I wanted to ask about, are you involved?
Oh, stories. Yeah. I have, hey, if there's any coders out here, I have a blockchain project I'm working on. I'm writing a book right now, which is almost done. I should be finishing that up in a month or so. I'm working on something behind the scenes right now, which I can unfortunately not tell anybody about, but stay tuned to Demand the Truth, because I can't tell you about it, but I've been working for a very long time, and it's going to be very interesting on a story. So maybe in a couple more weeks I can give you more specifics about that, but I don't want to let too many people know. But in the interim, before I have that going out, I will be still covering the subjects which are dear to my heart and I think need more coverage.
My final question is, what's your I want your take on e-begging. There are auditors out there who e-beg. There are auditors out there who drive across the country, then bitch and moan because they have no way of getting back. What's your thoughts on e-begging? Well,
it's all consensual, right? I'm not somebody that sits here and e-begs. I would never do that. I did have people tell me, because I've been doing activism 15, 16 years. I've never, ever asked for money, except for maybe the last couple years I somewhat promoted my Patreon. And I only did that because I had multiple people coming up to me and telling me, well, you do this all the time anyways. There's nothing wrong with getting some money for what you're doing. Wouldn't it be nice to have a platform? Wouldn't it be nice to spend all of your time instead of, working as a waiter or working at a bank or whatever? Wouldn't it be nice to have, how much more effective would you be, Will, if you had 40 hours extra to add to this? And, you're providing a service for people. Even Socrates, he didn't ask, but people gave him food and a place to stay and gave him some money here. And I was like, maybe you're right. And I made a Patreon. And then for a while, I was like, yeah, if every one of my subscribers gave me $1 a month, I could just work for you guys all the time. But there are people out there that e-beg. And as far as e-begging goes, it's consensual, right? At least it's not the government. It's not taxation. It's theft. They're not forcing you by a barrel of a gun to donate to them. They ask for money and they get money. I do know for a fact that there have been people that have abused this, and that's unfortunately to be expected. So I would say to the folks at home, 1, get non-violently active on your own right. 2, if that's not your avenue and you have more than enough money, then support the activists and groups that you think are most effective and are think the most genuine. But also, if you are going to give money to people, don't just do it because someone's telling you, oh, I need money, I got to go back here, I got to do this, do that. Asking for money to drive home from an audit in a random place that's not revolutionary, right? But if you wanted to start a GoFundMe and you were an independent journalist to say, hey, I want to go, the Bilderberg Group is going to be meeting in Sweden this year, and I can't afford that. But if you guys want to see me, I started a GoFundMe right here. And if you guys want to see me, this will cover my airfare and so forth. So, sure, it's annoying, and unfortunately people get their money taken away from them. So I would caution people to be very careful with what, who, and when you donate money to. But it is a consensual thing, and at least they're not forcing people to do it at the barrel of a gun.
I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your candorness I want to thank you for being on for almost 3 hours. I want you to plug anything you got going on, whether it's your Facebook, whether it's your YouTube. The floor is yours.
Very much appreciated. And not only that, you've been very respectful with me, and I think we had a good conversation. Hopefully, this will give people more of a nuanced opinion of me and why I do what I do, my psychological motivation. If people are interested to see some of the interviews, I've had some interviews with some of the smartest people in the world. I've confronted some of the most disgusting, corrupt people in the world. I have playlists on my YouTube channel for all different things: DCYF, First Amendment audits, artificial intelligence, the occult, whatever you like. I got it. YouTube.com/demand the truth. Demand, DEMAND, the truth, not the man, the truth. Demand the truth. I'm also on Facebook, Demand the Truth. I'm also on Twitter @Will_Turbitt, TURBITT. I'm on Facebook as Will Turbitt. I'm on Patreon, Demand the Truth. I'm on BitChute, Demand the Truth. Minds, Demand the Truth. Everywhere you go, just Google Demand the Truth or Will Turbitt. You'll probably see some unsavory things there too. Hey, come over, give me a subscription, help me get over 9,000. I've been shadow banned. I've been demonetized. Go over there, give me a like, share, and subscribe. And if you hate me, you hate my voice, you hate the whisk, that's fine. Don't care. You go out there, you do something nonviolent, and you take our future into your hands, because as long as you're relying on an idiot with a fake mic in his hands, we're not going to get too far. Thank you very much, El Sancho, for allowing me this platform.
I think the fact that you can hold that motherfucker for almost 3 straight hours is beyond impressive.
Well, I don't know if the audience can see, but my forearms are getting pretty jacked as a result. So,
Mr. Turbitt, open door invite. Thank you for your time, and have a great night.
Likewise, God bless. One more thing. Fake Mike, real news, El Sancho, First Amendment audits. We're blowing up this whole place nonviolently. Thank you very much. God bless you, folks. Have a great night.